Today is Thursday, April 16th, 2026, and this is a meeting of the Senior Center Building Committee. This meeting will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation via Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting or hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with a particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom meeting ID 375-414-6055 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager, at atm@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100 prior to the meeting. All right, I call us to order at 4:33 p.m. Hello, Dennis. All right. I would like to propose one amendment to the agenda. At the time I published it, I did not realize I had updates from Dan on the environmental permitting. So I would just like to put in, probably in place of the approval of the minutes, an environmental and permitting update. Any other revisions to the agenda? All right, then can I get a motion to approve the agenda as revised?
Motion to approve the agenda as revised.
Second.
Everybody on the committee is here, so all in favor?
Aye.
All right, the chair says aye. Great.
No, Dan's not here.
Dan Van Chapwick is
Oh,
on
okay.
vacation.
I
That's
just saw the
Dan.
Dan.
So when we are all together, we can do a voice vote, but when we are separate, I have to do a roll call voice.
Right.
Okay, so all committee members are here present. Okay. So let's start with Dan Van Chapwick is on vacation this week. So he wrote up an update on the environmental permitting and the utilities. Ken, did you want to cover that or do you want me to?
Yeah, I can try to do it, I guess. I brought a, did he send the email he only sent the email to
For the working group.
working group. Okay, so Dan put together an email with a couple of updates on where we stand, so I'll try to go through that and then we'll put it in the record or whatever.
Mhm.
So he starts with the Mass Environmental Policy Act, MEPA. And you guys have this, right? Okay, so the overall plan set has been drafted by DPW and Goddard is reviewing. So it appears that DPW is helping us here by doing some engineering that can be required by the MEPA approval. And then the next sentence says Goddard finalizing language conversion, which we think we know what that is. They have to have documents go out in many languages as they notify the communities. Continuing with MEPA application. And it says anticipating to kick off a MEPA process this week, which is the first step in the environmental justice outreach. So they're working on these documents that have to go to all the bordering towns and whatnot, and people that are interested in the project. And then we'll have an actual meeting that'll be held somewhere. They'll set it up.
So do we know, so who is creating this MEPA presentation or Goddard is?
Our consultant, yes.
And when is that due to us? Or when will they be?
Well,
back with that?
that's basically just says anticipate to kick off the process this week. It's the first step. That's all he says. So I don't know the exact date.
So
He
this
doesn't
week-
give us that here.
No, okay, so this is the week of the 15th, let's say, 14th.
Right. So that's kind of where we are on MEPA. We know there's just a lot of paperwork that has to be done, and that's the summary that he gave us. Now, the other application that's
And on that one, you notice that the checklist being submitted. Now, the checklist and the way he defines it is the application. So the long application of the things that we checked that they're complying with it. That's what he's saying is being submitted. And this is good news. the Bishop Road water and the Comcast project has been deemed exempt. So he was working on that and waiting for a decision. So that is exempt from this MISA process, which means they can do that work and go ahead and get it done.
Water and what else?
The Comcast, which is coincident with the water,
Okay.
same contractor.
For information, okay, he's got the next thing is the summary. So the next piece he's got is actually the Bishop Road Water Comcast project, where he summarizes that. So we had the way he writes it is we had a pre-construction meeting last week. That's meaning DPW. That's not we, anybody on this board. We had a pre-construction meeting last week with the contractor, the police, the fire, Comcast, and the Conservation Commission. Devens is coordinated with, meaning Devens is on board, understands the project's going forward, and they're okay with that, obviously. Contractor plans to begin work the week of April 20th, no work during Earth Day event. Now, I happen to drive by, the pipe has been delivered. I saw the loaded pipe, and now it's on the ground, so it's been delivered. It's stockpiled down by the gate.
Those are those big black ones,
Those are long,
black.
20-foot sections, whatever they are of the, I'll get it in a second. The special ductile iron piping that's used for water line. So that's the summary there. I guess the good news, once the project was deemed exempt, the contract is ready to go, and we'll see that progress happening. He has nothing here that says anything about anything that's needed to be done there. So in other words, my assumption is the contractor has got whatever permits he needs from the railroad. Those fees have been paid, by either DPW or him, because there's nothing here that says anything stops the guy from going ahead. So I'm gonna take that to mean that process is underway.
And we had paid permit fees for the railroad
We had already paid some,
many months
in the
ago, so
past,
I
correct.
presume those are.
right? But there was another piece he mentioned off and on about the contractor being coordinating with that same permit, something like that. So I'm gonna take it that they're ready to go. The next comment he has here has to do with the parking lot, which I guess we are gonna talk about later, so I'll leave that. So that's basically all we had for follow-up for those two permits. That's-
Can I ask a question? Was there any mention about the fence being moved at this time?
If anyone mentions that again,
What?
in my site,
What?
I will have a
No.
freaking fit.
I
I mean,
apologize.
she's not, no, she's not, you're not talking about the gate, you're talking about
I
the
mean,
fence.
no, the gate. I'm
The
sorry,
gate, oh.
The gate, the Devon's gate.
That's
So-
gonna be moved when Devin gets around. to
Sorry, I-
moving it.
no, it was a
We've heard
touchy
it so
subject.
many
You're right.
times.
It's not a touchy subject.
Yeah,
It's-
that's me, I'm sorry.
So it's,
I apologize.
there's agreement with Mass Development that it will move to about 300 feet, right, 300 or 400 feet past our entrance, which is essentially the property line between the remaining 70 some acres of DPW and the Oxbow.
Yeah.
And that there will be provisions made for a turnaround at some place. But that, it's all good,
Okay.
and the appropriate signage.
Yeah.
I think they were trying to figure out when, but soon. It's supposed to happen
Okay.
soon.
That's part of
Don't
my
know
schedule update.
Yeah,
There you
the
go.
correct
Okay.
answer is that a year ago, they said they were gonna do it in 2 weeks.
Of course.
And the year has
of
gone
course.
by, so it's a
2 weeks.
little frustration. But the good news is that Dan has a memorandum of understanding, obviously from Oxbow that we've seen already, and we know that Oxbow's on board. And he's got an agreement with Evans and with Mass Development that they will do the work. So the only piece that we have to be responsible for is some signage at the beginning of Bishop Road, which we've all talked about before, that will notify people when the gate is closed, rather than nothing that can turn around and see the gate closed.
Yeah.
So there'll be some signage that the DPW is gonna do, but we just hope it does happens any day. They don't seem to give them a real commitment to when they just say they're gonna do it.
Speaking of commitment, one question I do have, and it'll be for Dan, as this project progresses, I assume that the contractor will then bill Dan, who will review it and submit it for payment,
Mhm.
which is outside of
Yeah.
our purview. However, we've committed that contract amount with the alternate into our
Right.
overall total budget. And so on a monthly basis, we can track how much has been spent against that commitment,
Yeah.
but I just want to make sure that the town's clear. They'll probably be cutting separate checks on Dan's recommendation outside of that, but we'll show it reflected onto our total project budget.
Yeah, the select
I
board
think
signed
some
that
of that-
contract.
Yeah, yes, I think, but
If
I'll
the-
clarify that.
If town accounting is expecting, and which can be done as well, but if he gets a requisition from, the A&R, I forget. CHP, I think it was 3 letters, I was way off.
Something like that.
And he's got it, and he's approval of it, he could send it to us and we could include it in the packet. I just don't know what the payment schedule and contractual language that Dan has with CHP, so
Okay,
he may have terms with them this year.
Yeah,
I just do not want to see the water Comcast project get delayed because of our building committee schedule on how we structure our payments for
right.
our project,
it's a good one.
so.
That's all I have for Dan's report.
Madam Chair,
Oh, one more thing.
so, no. You want the question, you got something
Yeah,
else?
so I had one more thing, that concerned the project in general, so. We got a letter from Mass Development endorsing the project. Now, I'm not sure if you guys saw that or not. Okay, because this came in. So what happened here was there was in the last few weeks, we went to the planning board as well, since some of these questions have come up already and they're being reviewed. During the planning board meeting, which was a pre-application meeting, the town manager mentioned that there had been a walkthrough with Mass Development on several projects in town. Just a review of projects. And one of the projects was, they stopped and looked at the senior center land. And then the discussion came up about how important it is to, with MEPR and MESA and so forth. And it would be nice if they wrote a letter, which they did. And it's a really nice letter. So they addressed this. This is from Mass Development, and I'm going to give it to Katie. She put it in the record, but they addressed the letter to the Mass Environmental Policy Act office in Boston. And the letter of support to the Town of Ayer Senior Center project. I'm going to just read it. I can read it to him. As a neighboring government entity, collaborative partner, and a abutter to this infrastructure project, Mass Development is pleased to offer its support to the town of Ayer's construction of a new senior center. This project will replace 40-year-old, non-AD accessible, 1,700 square foot space located in the basement of the Ayer Housing Authority with a 13,000 square foot standalone AD accessible facility. The new center will significantly expand the town's ability to provide services, programs, and critical support to older adults, aligning with the Healy Driscoll administration's priorities outlined in REIM aging. There was a report that came out for 2030. And I can't pronounce it exactly, sorry.
Reimagine.
Reimagine, there you go. The Massachusetts plan and Executive Order 642, which advanced age-friendly practices across the Commonwealth. Beyond serving as a modern accessible space, the senior center will play a significant role in promoting physical and social well-being, helping to reduce loneliness and strengthen the community connections. This investment will also support efforts to address broader challenges facing older adults, including food insecurity, access to health coverage, housing stability, and financial hardship for residents of Ayer and the Neshoba Valley region. Based on the design shared on a recent site visit hosted by the town of Ayer, we do not anticipate any negative impacts associated with traffic, noise, visual impact of the area, or protection of wildlife. We are coordinating with and support the town of Ayer to reposition the gate that controls traffic during key species migration windows, which will allow for continued protection of the animals. This project aligns with Mass Development's goals to provide services to residents as we do our part to develop more housing in Devens and the Devens Enterprise Commission's efforts to promote nature appreciation in the nearby Oxbow Wildlife Refuge and the Nashua River Trail. Thank you for your consideration. Respectfully, Michael R. Sweeney, Executive Vice President of Operations for Mass Development. I don't think it gets better than that.
It's a great, well, that's great.
I don't think it gets better than that.
Chat GPT could do better than that.
So you can see the professionalism of that because they have the knowledge to hit the correct points, without hesitation. So they hit specific things that the MEPA will be looking at. They understand that those pieces are very important in our applications. That was a big deal. So that was something that we heard was coming, but when you hear it's coming, don't necessarily know it's going to be there. And there it is. So yeah, that's my report.
All right. Right.
So Madam Chair, can I ask, could we get, or from whom would we get, kind of a firmer timeline from Goddard as to how the MEPA approval process will play out, how the public outreach will occur, and exactly what those dates are.
Yeah.
I was doing a little house cleaning, spring cleaning, yada, yada, and I came upon our January 5th, 2025.
Yeah.
A memo written over a year and 2 months ago, kind of outlining what it is Goddard would be doing and how that process ought to unfold. It's a little disappointing that the MEPA process has delaying somewhat, I guess.
Yeah.
We are supposed to, put it out to bid and get construction going. So I think it would be helpful for me certainly to perhaps have Goddard attend one of our meetings and specify exactly how this process should unfold over the next couple of months. So that we can, be more definitive on what exactly or how exactly this process should unfold.
I cover some of that in my upcoming schedule update in as much detail as we know. There are some durations within that are not fully known because they're review periods that may take that operate in a range. But I do cover some of that within my schedule update that I'll be delivering as our next agenda.
That's probably a good segue into your part of the agenda.
All right. Well, I can do that.
I think Dennis's
Good.
point is extremely valid because I think we knew a few months ago, the whole schedule is based on this MEPA thing. So the tighter we understand it, the better we all are.
Yes, and it seems to be driven by Goddard. That is, Goddard is doing the assessments and providing the documentation and completing the application. And in their words, they will be preparing the ENF and will be conducting initial EJ outreach as required.
Mhm.
Right.
And it would be good to know, just kind of pin that down and firm it up
Yeah.
so that it doesn't drift much more than it already has drifted.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know Dan Scalco's been staying on that as much as he could, so it's just a real long drawn out thing we have to put up with, unfortunately.
Mhm.
But I don't think it's, I don't want him to ask.
No, absolutely.
The meeting that we
I know
had,
we can get.
we had a meeting with Goddard asking the same questions. So you've got a pretty wide net here, and a lot of their answers were, well, we're at the mercy of what this is, and you never know, type thing. But I think it'd be good to drag them here and say
Absolutely.
this exact things.
And
Yeah.
you don't have access to putting just that piece of your schedule up on the screen that we talked about. We tried,
Good.
Making that a thing.
because there was a schedule that's been
Mhm.
updated.
And that is actually where I was thinking to start
Okay.
my presentation and yeah, we can have that as an exhibit. I thought that was this, but.
And a good reminder that Dennis mentioned this because the other thing we talked about was having potential help from our state representative and the senator. And I asked that several times.
Yeah,
That has not, well, unless you guys have something different, it's been on me.
no,
Do you want to drive this or do you want to just tell me to scroll up or down while you're?
we could start with the sort of colored section in there because that breaks out the MISA and MIPA and their natural heritage items. So this is based on the latest information that we got from Goddard about where these pieces all fit together. And so the first piece of that, which was, Ken mentioned is starting imminently, is the environmental justice outreach. That is sort of the first piece. There's the notifications part of the permitting that requires. Goddard is taking care of that. Following that is the filing of it, which we file something called an EENF, an Extended Environmental Notification Form, which we present. And I think that, as Goddard explained it, that's a two-step process, and we're rolling it into one because we have a lot of the data that we need. We think that we can ask them to streamline the process by considering all of it at once, which is what that second duration there is, rollover environmental impact report. those two durations, you can kind of combine them, but so we're looking to essentially move through the MIPA process as one contiguous step. And this timeline that's showing on the completion is about when we think that would conclude, in approximately mid-September.
So it's gonna take 5 months
Yes,
to do those things.
yes, and that is what we have been told by Goddard, and that is, there are some ranges here. These dates or durations that are in that column, says 38 days, 35 days. Those are the midpoints of the durations that they gave us in terms of ranges. So we anticipate that would conclude in September. There's a part of that is concurrent, which is the development of the Conservation Management Plan, or CMP, which is the document that we need in order to stick a shovel in the ground. That needs to be completed. We can complete some precursors of the building permit application and get the administrative items started at least, but we will not be able to stick a shovel in the ground to start construction until that conservation management permit is completed. And we anticipate that we'll get to the point where we can submit that in mid-September, and then there's some time for that to be processed, which is that final duration there, which I bolded. So it's looking like construction on the site can begin in essentially late September to early October is where that gets us to.
And so prior to us receiving the conservation management permits, construction companies will bid on the project.
Yes.
We can commit contractually that the project will be going ahead, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So those things can run concurrent in anticipation.
Yes. And that is how we have tried to build this schedule that was sent out to the committee. Is we've essentially been building it in two directions. We have the design milestones, which are, driving the project forward in terms of completion of documents to certain milestones, your 60% CDs, your completion of your construction documents, your bidding process is working in one direction. But we also know that we don't want to ask contractors to hold their bid, or they may not choose to hold their bid beyond a certain date once bidding is completed. So we also want to be mindful of when we would actually be able to start construction and work backwards to make sure that we line things up so that we complete bidding at the right time relative to the completion of the permitting process, so that the contractor can then proceed to construction. And that they're not left with a bid that, as Brian has called, goes to sale, or that we ask them to hold it for an undue period of time, because then they could come back and claim and for additional money.
And we suspect, or that between first week in October and hard freeze, the construction company will be able to pour the foundation and get things done.
Well, we don't know that for sure.
No, one of the, and thank you, Matt, for walking us through that time frame. That is somewhat news to me. Maybe I missed it out when we were discussing this earlier. I was under the understanding that mid-August we would be probably approved. The downside to what Matt was saying is that we bid this thing. Holding it more than 30 days is asking a lot. In fact, I doubt if we could ask for more than that. The problem is that we don't get approval for one reason or another. We don't know. So we go through the bid process, which is not an inexpensive experience. It also opens up all the contractors to what they bid on the project. And then the thing collapses and we have to rebid. Help me through this with Brian and Matt. I'm not running this problem.
A normal bidding window is anywhere between 6 and 8 weeks. And so you put out for filed sub bids, you get those at about 4 weeks, and then you have a GC that comes in after that.
Yeah.
The hope is that as we get 2 months away from what we have on our schedule here.
Mhm.
We have a clearer idea exactly what's left for this MIPA process and whose desk is it on right now? Are we feeling confident about what it is? About before putting this out on the street for it to be bid on.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
for a GC spot like this, if we get to, we're still feeling very confident, but we still don't have our answer at that point. You can always move the acceptance date bids too. Like we could have this bid window be 2.5 months or something on the
So
extreme.
you could post a date they're due, but you could extend the due date, is that what you're saying?
You can,
Yes.
so during the bidding window, there'll be things called addendum that will be
Yeah,
going out to
right.
every plan
Clarification,
holder that does
addendum.
clarification. Part of that clarification could be the due date for acceptance of bids. And
Okay.
so we've done that before. We've actually gotten close to a bid date and there's some major change that needed to come in. That's not gonna give the contractors enough time. We bump it out another week for them to give them enough time to bid on it. So that's always
Yeah,
an option.
thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. I think that needs to be clear for the committee that we could reasonably start the 6 to 8 week bid process, let's say, early August. Because it's a qualified bid, those contractors will be aware that this is going to happen in the summer period. And then we get out to, let's say, uh, uh, mid-September, hopefully we'll have an idea from, it's hard to read the state, but they should be able to give us a pretty clear idea. Because the real danger is getting the numbers in and having everybody see them and then blow it all, that would be a really ugly situation.
John, the scenario that you're describing actually is, I don't know if you can see your screen, is what we're
Yeah,
looking
I see
to
that. Yeah.
is begin the pre-qualification process that leads us into the bidding between May and July, concurrent with the completion of the construction documents, so that we have a established bidder pool by the end of July, an owner review period, which then rolls directly into documents being available to bidders by mid-July. Or by mid-August.
Yeah, mid-August. Yeah.
Which then starts our filed sub-bidding, which we then need to get general bids, and that concludes the general bidding in mid-September. So
Yeah.
that it's a window there where we have the bids in hand and we're able to allow the contractor a period for submittals and procurement, taking care of some administrative items that keep them moving forward while we wait for the CMP to be finalized so we can start work on the site.
Yeah,
That's
that's very, very helpful.
move as quickly as possible, given the permitting constraints.
You did. Glad you mentioned
Dennis's point I want to touch on, that is, we're going to be into winter conditions. And I'll ask our cost estimator to make sure he includes that. There's no way around that. I just want to make it clear, we've poured lots of concrete in the dead of winter. There's lots of ways of doing it. But it does create a lot of issues for the contractor in terms of protecting the building, the concrete work and what have you.
And
If
the
all-
ground under the
Yeah,
building.
and keeping the ground from freezing. And also they'll be working on a lot of the infrastructure in the building before it's enclosed. And that is always an issue. And then heating. So I'm gonna reach out to our estimator. We're giving him a 90% set for review and cost estimating midweek next week. I notice you've got our sets at 60% or something in June or something, but we're going to be at 90%, including completed specifications, which, by the way, from the architect's viewpoint, I like I'm not happy about the long wait period, but allows us to really tighten up the drawings and look for little minuscule things that might be a problem during the bid process. But we should be able to get estimates by the end of April. That's the way I've set it up. We're a little bit behind getting these things because we're going to be discussing the kitchen later and the electrical issues. But
John, my recommendation is that the committee should approve all of our VE tonight and approve going out for another estimate at this, like, it should be the committee's decision for moving forward with getting this another cost estimate that we're
Yeah.
comfortable with on where we are.
One-
with the budget.
One of the problems right now is that quite a while ago, we set this up. Our cost estimator window is the 15th of April to the 30th. And we're in his schedule. I will touch base with him, see where we can move it off a few
Yeah,
weeks.
but I'm not gonna have the committee be held hostage by Pete Timothy's schedule on that. So, I mean, we also have one on our contract that
Yeah,
you guys let us know when you want to rectify.
Yeah.
Later on, with the stretch that we have here, maybe it's worth spending your money later on in the calendar year
Yeah.
for it.
I think I was pretty clear about this a couple meetings ago, that this is the window for our cost estimate. I understand it can change, not a problem. I will make that clear for Timothy. I believe he'll accommodate us. I just want you to know that we had scheduled it with the committee knowing this, the 15th of April to the 30th. I'll try and move that to June, which is plenty of time, I believe, for him to reschedule us into his work schedule. And we'll add winter conditions into the project.
I'm not gonna do that yet. Through the chair, back to Dennis.
Yes.
I think what we need to do is we've been using Dan Kelquick as our, reach out to Goddard.
Mhm.
And I hate to put more pressure on Dan. It seems to me evident that Goddard should be giving us a report every other week. They have to be on a reporting schedule to us rather than us waiting for them to come back to us.
Yes.
So that, I'm saying we need to tighten that up and ask Dan to somehow get to Goddard with a communication that says the committee expects a report every 2 weeks. And then there's this tiny opportunity that with the kind of work that we got from mass development and continued work from other people, the whole game plan, if you can go back to that, that might be over the committee's head, but let's make it simple. There's a chance that the final piece, which is the final ENF, or the second part of is combining them together, basically. The extended, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Or expanded ENF. Then it says the environmental impact report, okay, that we're trying to avoid the total requirement in that section. That's kind of it, the EIR.
Mhm.
So potentially during this reach out period, communication period, maybe we'll get lucky and it'll move ahead.
Well, and isn't this whole process transparent and open to the public, like the comment period?
Yeah, it's gonna be,
Right,
just
so-
every agency and every town and city around here will be notified of it. That's the open comment period.
Well,
Yes.
no, that's what I'm saying is, so if the potential implications to the project, right?
Yeah.
We will be able to watch that whole thing unfold, right? And be able to say,
After that letter, there won't be any implications to the project, I don't think.
I don't think so either,
Certain-
but what what I'm saying is, you know, we could be, if there were some,
Right.
if we anticipated based on some commenting that there might be changes required, it doesn't mean we couldn't be incorporating them as they go along, right?
No, that's.
Because the whole process is open and transparent?
Right.
Yeah, okay, I just want to make sure I understood that.
There's the specific timeframe, there is a specific response timeframe required. So what's the name of that publication? What the state monitor, there's a.
Central Register,
Excuse me?
Central Register.
The Central Register. When this gets posted on that, there's a time period now for responses. So they should be telling us, Goddard should be reporting to us. This is when it gets posted. This is when we expect responses, more specifically to what you're asking.
Right,
about.
that is,
Right.
I'm
That's what
new
they-
to all this. I'm a little surprised it hasn't been posted already, given the amount of, I mean, it has been clear that
Well,
this
it's-
process would need to unfold since January of 2025. And we knew that these things would have to happen.
Right.
Yeah, but we could-
We had to have our
We
plans.
had to have a set of
point.
drawings ready. We couldn't do it before we had site plan drawings. We had to have a site developed and set of drawings. In fact, they approved everything we sent in for drawings, which is an achievement. We couldn't submit an application without a complete set of plans.
And,
And we did, we have plans. So
no, I
we only
understand.
got the plans done, what, month and a half ago or something like that.
It just,
End of February.
to a novice, it would appear that this has
Yeah,
been
but-
dragged out and it's laborious, and I still don't have a clear understanding on what date the town of Ayer will hold a public meeting hosted by Goddard
Yeah, we'll
to
get,
discuss the MIPA approval.
Yeah.
And I would think that we should have that date by now.
good point.
Yep.
Well, I bet
I'll
you Goddard
play
doesn't
back.
have that date yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll swing back to Dan for more information on that.
Yeah, just one final piece, just following up on what our project manager said. I can tell you something that I learned during this process, and there's a lot to learn for everybody. I thought originally, I'm mentioning this only for the benefit of everybody else, that we could get the MISA environmental done early, because that kind of was indicated to me that that would be the case. Then I found out during the process, you can't get the MIPA until MISA gives MIPA that environmental completion.
They're tethered together, yeah.
Right, and I just thought there was two, and that was a learning experience as well,
Yeah.
so. Hopefully we can get it going. So, I mean, I would take that, I really appreciate that list, but I think we should all be shooting to improve that list somehow,
Absolutely.
every week we should be working on getting out of.
Yes, because, you know, to John's point about winter conditions and weeks matter.
Everything.
You know, if we drop, if it happens 3 weeks sooner than otherwise, it could mean, you know, the construction goes somewhat smoother, or we don't incur some of the additional costs associated with having to build under winter conditions.
I hate
We
to
all
be
know.
devil's advocate, but this is an ideal timeline. It only takes one person to come up with some off the wall comment that MIPA says, well, no, now you have to address this, and then it starts the process over again, if I understand it right.
No,
Because you have to address whatever the concern was. And then go through the comment period over again so that people can now comment on new updated plans. If I understand the process correctly.
right, but
So if.
this is so
This
simple.
is like,
This is really simple.
nobody complained, everything went perfectly right.
Yeah.
If somebody comes up with something that we don't foresee, this whole timeline could go
Right.
out the window. And we have to start and push back because now you have to, oh, well, this salamander is in the wrong spot.
No,
We're keeping positive energy
Yeah, I
out
think
in the
we're in good
world,
shape.
though, you know, and
They're used to looking at projects that you're building dams along the ocean and, you know, freaking huge highways and stuff like that. This is a real small, real small deal. Yeah, you're right.
But it only takes one of those environmental justice people to come out and say, well, wait a minute, what about this?
We're doing so much for them. We're doing so much for them already. Okay, thanks. That was
All
good.
right. Any other items of the,
So I did want to touch on two things in the schedule that I went past it. If you go back up to the thing, there it is in the blue item in the middle of the permitting phase was the timeline that Dan Van Skelwick asked me to carry about the completion of the gate movement. In our last communication about it, he anticipated that would be complete by the end of June. So that's the date that's shown there in your schedules. And the other update to this since the last iteration reflects the updated planning board timeline as relayed by Ken. So that the current timeline for the planning board approvals is captured in the planning board phase there. It shows and some of those have been completed already, but the planning board public hearing is the 28th. And then we have the site plan approval and follow-on steps for the planning board for both site plan and stormwater, which are going to be running concurrently. And Ken advised that there is a duration for the final sort of administrative sign off by the planning board, which is where that last piece comes from. Planning board final sign off on decision. We anticipate that would be mid-June. I put it on a date that would end a calendar week for simplicity in building the schedule, but that would be some point in mid-June. So,
We already reported about the pre-application meeting and all that. I think we had 2 weeks ago or something.
yes. I didn't have anything further on schedule. Were there any?
Jackson?
thank you, this looks great. Did you guys wanna cover, do we wanna go into the budget and discussion now?
Yeah, quickly, I can give a quick budget review that's on the large 11 by 17. Some columns have been hidden just to give you a sense of where we started at town meeting, what was approved at town meeting, and where we sit today, which is in the dark green column. We gave Katie some ideas on potential VE to present to the select board when she sat in front of them, as we knew we were a little higher than where we were at town meeting. And so not only we have the alternates identified, but we needed to come up with some ideas based on our review of the estimate and review of other ideas that we had for here. And so what the difference between our middle column and our right column is the yellow and what's been highlighted. And what you see there is a $455,000 reduction in value engineering. Matt has put together kind of a boiled down thing that doesn't encapsulate everything that we want to go through today, but I wanted to kind of just show you the bottom line with the 455 taken out of this budget. I will take your second to bottom line, which reads estimated town meeting asks with generators and partitions. And so we've identified those as well. They're still shown as alternates on our plan, per the message from our town manager, is that those are very high priority on the project anyway. And so at town meeting, our total project budget minus what has been currently appropriated was at 11.49. So that is the second to bottom line on the left column. That's where we went into town meeting being, this is what our budget is. With the exercise of some things out with that 455,000, we're at about 11.69. And so there are some things that we still have some work to do, but I think we're still in a decent position doing the work that we did. And so what I'd like to do, and what we've asked before we get into the conversation about other things such as kitchen and site work and other potential ads, I wanted to kind of snap the line here and go through some of the things that we brought up that we think is a good idea and that we might need to do before we proceed to another estimate. So what makes up that 455? And before I say that, I did want to bring your attention to one other thing that we did, is if you can see the line in contingencies, which is about halfway down the page. As you can see, we increased our construction and contingency slightly from 3 to 4%. It's just, we're trying to bolster our contingency as we get into later into the design period. Our estimates are going to have a reduced design contingency. We want to make sure our construction contingency is standard for this type of a project. So as you can see, we could make ourselves
standard for the committee purposes, 4 to 5%.
We could usually 4 to 5%. Goal for a construction is you spending 1 to 3% during it with some leftover funds after is usually our experience on that. So with a great geotech and good soil out there, that's usually the biggest unknown, and this is going to be ground up. So, a lot of it, hopefully it gets caught before things even get into construction. So if for say we lowered that contingency down to where it was at town meeting, we're getting even closer to where we were for our total project budget of that 11.49.
Okay.
That 11.49 represents the $10 million that was authorized at town meeting for borrowing, plus.
Hold on, excuse me. Town meeting voted 11.5 million.
So it approved
That's
a
what it was
10 million
ordered. That's what was ordered.
with a $1.5 million borrow contingency that
Okay.
is subject to grant. One or the other. That's my understanding and what I've been told, and
The vote was 11.5.
Yes, it was.
The discussion was separate from that.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, but we'll go with what you said.
If I have it, I guess, I think what should be part of our packet with the warrant languages, because there's a lot of
Yeah.
pushback that we get as well on what
Yeah.
we're presenting as our budgets here as to
You're
what this
absolutely
was.
correct.
So,
Definitely have that vote, and I'll get it.
great, okay, thank you. So that being said, if we even lowered contingency slightly at this point in the game, we're getting very close to where we were originally at our town meeting budget, which is good. That doesn't mean that we still should be making still be doing work to come in from there and doing the best we can to economize what we have. That being said, to go over to Matt's boiled down VE list, this is ultimately a boiled down list from the large comments that everybody gave us, which was great. And then we wanted to make sure if there was cost impacts on those comments, and then we also wanted to identify what was going to have a potential value engineering item for that.
Can I ask, on the top one, parking lot reduction? In the comments, it says, parking area walkways are designed in this way as a safety feature and are desired to remain as is. Who desires that? Or I know that John
The
initially.
architect does. About life safety for senior centers, like it's the reason why we have areas of refuge on the second floor. There's a lot of safety issues that are really important, and that's one of them.
And so that's why that reflects the cost impact. That's, I say only, but it's $30,000 because that reflects a reduction in curving. In certain areas to going from vertical granite down to something different is what we would have. So it would be a reduction there.
Yeah, and I think Dan V had indicated that he'd be comfortable with the raised walkway if we eliminated the end caps so they could plow straight through, which I don't think we would have a big problem with. You might end up with some damaged cars, but you won't hurt anybody. And that was Dan's. I think we saw an email from him just the other day on that.
We're gonna get to that.
Yeah. I can go through the line items quickly. You stop me if I'm going too fast or if you have a question on this. We are looking to realize $100,000 savings. This is based upon soil disposal fees. This was in our estimate that we had for a pretty large sum of money to the tune of four plus $100,000 that we had there for exporting fill. We'd like to utilize the site that we have in DPW to hopefully make that trucking shorter and potentially really reduce that. So we took 100,000 off. We think that's conservative enough that we're still being risk averse, but we should be able to claw some of that money back.
Can I ask you, sorry, just a second, because I didn't want to forget this. Have you guys ever been to the backyard of the DPW?
No, I have not.
Okay, we need to take a trip.
Take a walk?
Just the three of us.
Sure.
Show you what we have there.
Yep.
So you're familiar with your mind's eye about what he's talking about here.
And
And I don't think
is
we're
is it available?
Oh, it's huge.
Okay, so there's no concern about
I want you to see it.
no capacity. Okay,
There's no capacity concern. In fact, there's so much material there, they probably have enough material to put in the sub base for our parking lot. Stored, milled machine from all the piles and piles of really nice stuff.
I like
So
that.
that'll get into the discussion later, but you should at least get a visual on it,
Great.
so you
Right.
understand. And have you ever been there, Dennis, anybody?
I have not seen those piles.
It's mind blowing.
Would it be worth,
That's really
I'm
nice.
going off topic here, Ken, but would it be worth getting a sieve and Proctor analysis on that said material that's been piled?
Yeah, it would, but it's all good stuff, but the main point is that I think to clarify this discussion of the distance for you guys. And
Yes,
what
that
you're
will
talking
help.
about,
Yep,
and the roads to get you
That
there,
will
that's what I'm talking about, is so you can
Completely
see the
agree.
actual
yep,
physical shape of the thing.
great.
We could ask Dan V too. Dan V may have a good handle on the quality of that material.
Yeah.
It's milled material right off the pavement, right off the mill. It's-
If the engineers sign off that it's suitable for that use,
We'll
that's
get to
a
that,
huge
later.
potential credit.
I think it's important that my point was just for you to see the physical thing, so we're not just
Yeah.
talking about storing it over here and you're guessing,
Yes.
you'll know. Thank you.
Next is a reduction in our cut fill analysis. We did have an initial takeoff be done before design was even done. There then was a placeholder in our estimate for the amount of cut and fill soils to get to our correct elevation. I think by the time that we're ready for our next estimate, we'll have better contours and we'll know exactly what that actual cut fill analysis is going to be. But we did lower that down by $25,000.
Yeah, and that's
Just-
reasonable because we did redesign the height of the building. It was settled because of the neighbor's property. We didn't want to have to go into that property with a grading, so we actually lowered the building. And I think that we're not going to have as much of that
So
material.
if you recall, I asked Vertex if you'd give me a separate price just to estimate the site work. Could you
Yes.
follow up on that?
Yes, I will follow up and give you the price for that. Just site?
Just like taking the civil drawings and just give us an estimate based on the civil. They're done, they're 100%.
In-house, we have a civil plan reviewer, and I want to find out if she can do cost estimating as well.
Right, so
But if
that-
not, then I'll get it from a third party.
Okay, just find out.
No problem.
I mean, if it's a number.
So those two are more or less not for review or for approval. That's kind of how our analysis was of where we are, that we can reduce those numbers there. Next is stone veneer, and this one's unique. It was duplicated in our estimate, so it was actually in the cost estimate, but we're also carrying the same number as an alternate. So this is also, you know, we can discuss later on whether or not what alternate that is or whether it's wanted at all, but this can be removed from the estimate because it's already being counted as part of our alternates. So that was a reduction of 95,000. That includes the stone veneer and also the cap that was included as part of that in the estimate. Reduce pavement from unit pavers to a more cost-effective alternative. I did put this in here. There have been a bunch of back and forth about what that is. I think, Matt, you had some feedback on this as you had experience with it, correct? We put this in as 15,000 is something we found on the estimate. We would work with John about any other materials that could be used in these areas and potentially use like a stamped concrete rather than.
John had an idea too, we could change some walkways from concrete to either bituminous or maybe just gravel.
Yep.
If they're out of the way.
So we anticipated that to
Not
save
perhaps,
us
no.
about
Don't know,
15 grand. Building signage. On the estimate, we had a building sign allowance out there for, I believe it was $25,000. I don't believe, besides maybe some standard lighting, that we could do this in a cheaper way. I think, you know, Matt and I both worked on the King Street project in Littleton, which is the new school department there on King Street, and you know, a nice couple pieces of granite and a nice sign. You know, wasn't that expensive. So I think we can find something a little more economy than what was on the estimate. Some HVAC modifications. This will be something that we have, we'll just need to have some feedback from the mechanical engineer. This is feedback right from you, Ken. Looking at some of the fan coil units that we had, whether that could be supplemented with the unit heater, which is a less pricey product that we could put up in certain areas to heat instead of having fan coils. And so we reduced that by 10,000 as well. Couple other ideas that I've put on here, and this is really just a standard placeholder that we put in on a lot of our VE exercises, is giving ourselves some flexibility with plantings. And when we get to that point of that landscape plan, is potentially even asking the landscape designer to come in here, knowing what we have for our planting estimate at this point, and seeing if there are other options in our need to potentially reduce this down. Some plantings can also be put into an alternate, or you know, it could be something that you really thin down your planting plan and you see where you're at towards the end of the project. And so you're not hamstringing your programming or your building itself, but you have an understanding how much money you have left at the end, and so that you could replace it towards the end and take that out of contingency.
Right.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. I don't have a problem with that. We do want to get a screen to the DPW site, but that's a real good option because there will be money left over at the end. And I think what Brian says is that you'll be able to have your landscaper, who's one of the last guys on the site, to add in some elements that we wanted in the original design. So good point.
Fundraising opportunity to put
Yeah.
plaques, put
Yeah.
benches, put things that people have.
Is that part of the Friends thing, Katie? Something like that? Extra?
There is some, yeah.
But I just have to make a comment, you know, for the record. We have, you know, put in, it's part of our package. We have a landscape plan submitted
Yes,
with the civil.
with
So
facility.
that goes through the site plan review. Be cautious about that.
Well,
There's
so
certain
we're
reductions.
not saying we're going to not do it. What we're saying is, or Brian's saying is, there should be money left over to complete that plan. And also for fundraising reasons, we have a lot of sites where they have garden plaques in honor of somebody that they threw out the money. We got it all at the end. We never had to
We
scrap
can't
it.
even take those items out.
So could I ask a
That's
couple of
trees in
things?
there.
Do we know what the total landscape design and the landscape construction budget is? How much did we allow for those two things?
We don't have that estimate yet because we're not,
We-
we're doing a final estimate.
The last full year estimate had it.
And the other thing is, assuming all goes swimmingly with the schedule, it looks like they'll be ending construction in mid-fall of 2027.
Yes.
Would it be appropriate or necessary for the plantings to be done the following spring just because of the nature of whatever you're planting? And how do you kind of manage the
Gotta
budget
get a
of
waiver
work
for
that?
that.
Yep.
You're gonna have to get a waiver for that during that process.
Yeah.
If you want to get a certificate of occupancy, everything has to be done. But the possibility of a waiver when you run into that situation.
Yeah, we've had several times where you're outside of the planting window and a contractor's not going to risk it knowing they're gonna have to replant everything in the spring.
One.
So you work with the building department, you get a temporary occupancy at that point, and then come spring, kind of mobilize that point and get this done.
The landscape.
I think Dennis
Sorry,
was a
Bob.
little bit optimistic there. We're not going to be finished by mid-fall of 2027. It's going to be closer to the end of winter. 14 to 15 months. And we usually allow a little bit more time.
I'm just reading what's on the paper, John.
Yeah, well, I'm just telling you what it takes, 14 to 16 months.
So the landscape specifications where the planting scope is described will typically allow for 2 possible planting windows because
Yes.
you want the ground to not be frozen, but you want it to occur at a time when plants tend to be dormant. So it reduces the transplant shock, so you don't get a lot of die-off. So typically there are fall plantings and there is a specific defined window in the landscape specifications that describe a spring window. There are windows of opportunity. Plant them in the middle of the summer, a lot of heat stress.
Yep.
Plants
Yep.
don't survive very well. Can't plant them in the middle of the winter, ground is frozen, won't take.
It'll be
So-
spring.
That's Matt, what
No,
he
I-
did in his previous,
I've
career.
planted many things in fall, in September, October, and they actually do better.
Yeah.
They actually do better.
Big gardener.
They often do.
That's what Matt was saying, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It'll either be mid to late fall or early spring.
Mhm.
Okay, just to wrap this up, another one that we put on here is a reduction in architectural millwork. And so this will take an exercise with our end user and then bring it to the committee. But it's ultimately finding areas where we have architectural millwork, which would be owned by the contractor, which is a prevailing wage and with everything being installed. If there's other items, whether it's certain closets or items that's not really accessed by the public, that you can go out and put this into your furniture package and get this at a more cheaper price. And so
Yeah,
whether that's
Absolutely.
certain things that maybe we don't need a finished carpenter on site in order to do that, we can find a cheaper product in order to do it. And so I put it on here, it was 10 grand. I looked at the architectural millwork package. It's pretty robust and we can go through and we can identify things that may be able to cut that down or not.
Good.
That being said, the only other item that's not on here, I think you'll notice that the bottom line says 255. The kitchen, I'm gonna just cross out for right now because that's for another discussion after this, but this is not showing is also a realization of savings on our utility budget. We have $1 million in there right now. Thank you to our DPW director who has been getting those bids in. He also has a placeholder for DPW labor in order to clear the land in order for national grid work. That's going to be coming in from, I believe it's the Bishop Road area that we're bringing
Comes over behind the building.
behind the building.
From the transmission lines.
That all needs to be cleared. He gave me kind of a rough order of magnitude on what to put in. That's still going to result in what we're hoping is about $150,000 in savings on that overall $1 million of utility that we have. So, knock on wood, we can see that savings, but we're showing it right now and we're tracking every piece of utility that comes in.
So when you mean you're showing it, you're showing the prices were received, but you're not showing the credit, the save.
So what I've lumped it into that highlighted number here, that 455.
Of
The 455 and the
455,
value
yeah,
engineering
I got it right there.
cell there
I got it.
is
Yeah.
inclusive of that.
Got it. Yeah.
Just occurred to me, in terms of utilities, I spoke with the Comcast, I want to say Director of Governmental Relations or something regarding how much bandwidth is gonna be coming into the building. What he said, Comcast is currently in the process of upgrading portions of Ayer with increased bandwidth as part of one of the grants that they've received. He said that the timing looks like by the time we're ready to get the building up and running, Comcast will have put in the wiring and the software that will allow what he said was multi-gig upstream and downstream bandwidth to that location. Is there a way for you guys to keep track of that I'm not sure exactly what that timing will be for Comcast, because part of the improvement in bandwidth will be as a result of they have to physically change the hardware. And part of it is upgrading the software, which I guess at the end of the day gives you the increased bandwidth. But
So in my understanding is the alternate in the bid that just came in from Dan is the Comcast portion.
It's the conduit, it's infrastructure.
The infrastructure, yes, right. So what you're saying though is by the time that we are ready to call Comcast and say, we're ready for you guys to pull. If these initiatives have been brought in and we're up to speed, we're not putting a legacy system in and having to come in and switch something.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Because it would be great to have that level of bandwidth going to build that obviously. Put that on the agenda like a year from now. So remember when we've got a building going, but yes, absolutely. So that being said, I know it.
Options here. I think that these are all kind of reasonable understanding of why we put the number together that we did. It will require some work potentially from the working group, identifying where that 10 grand of millwork is going to be saved, or there 10 grand of the planting scope that we can bring forward with the drawings. But the others are kind of low hanging fruit to try to skinny us up and tighten our belt. Ultimately, if we accept this, we'll snap our line here if this is where our budget is currently, knowing we have a little bit of work left to do. And we'll have to do this exercise again once we receive our estimate. That estimate is now going to show our new kind of bidding timeline. The DD estimate had a bidding window that was earlier than this, and so you're going to get up to date numbers on what he foresees as the bidding window in that August time.
Data, how bids are coming in right now. I know that fuel is an uncertainty right now, that becomes a real thing.
That's getting to.
Yeah.
Meetings plastic.
Yeah, petroleum stuff, right, and so.
Aluminum and PVC.
What we've asked too is in addition to this, we'd like to have more ideas from the design team as well. It's like, hey, we might be able to do this, identify any more alternates. And then also identify potential alternates we have on here that maybe we don't want. We have a pickleball court for 200 grand on there right now. That's gonna probably be on the lower end of what the priorities are. That's kind of the sense that I got in.
We may need to add some more to gain ourselves some flexibility in bid day. So
Brian, can I ask, in your experience, I mean, right now, we're 192,000.
Yep.
So we're right around 2% over the total budget, which is, in your experience, at this point in the process, is being 2% off. I mean, how much variance would you anticipate there would normally be? And is this a higher, more than, or less than, or about what is typical?
in my opinion, it's concern but not panic. I guess we'll put it that way. I'd like to see us, as I've been communicated to by the town and by the town manager, like that 11.5 is our back up against the wall. Is how I look at this budget. And so I'm still feeling confident that we can get there, and we have other relief valves that we can pull in order to do that. But I also want to continue with this work, and I want to create more relief valves so that when we do get to bid day, we're comfortable that we can make sure that we hit this target. So
I'd like to remind everybody that the cost estimate is the middle of the estimate.
Yeah.
He looks at, there's a higher level and a lower level based on the current market conditions, and the estimate lands in the middle. So you have a good chance of coming well under, you got a chance of going over. And I agree with Brian. The closer we come to that middle level, the more comfortable we will be. And I think we'll hear a whole lot after this next estimate, which I'm hoping to get soon.
The pre-qualification process gives you a really good idea. We just did Princeton's public safety, very similar to the size of this project that we have. I think we had 17 general contractors try to get qualified for the job, and we said no to 2. That's an enormous pool, which kind of tells you that there's a lot of competition out there. People are hungry and they're looking to do it. I hope that continues through the summer, but
Yeah.
which is indicative of a good bid as well towards that.
To John's point, which is a good one, estimators are not estimating the job to win it. They're estimating it to help us create a realistic budget for the project.
Right.
They're estimating, as John said, to the middle of what they anticipate the bid range would be. So while we can't count our chickens before we hatch, what that estimate number is telling us is that if we bid this right now, there is a chance it could be lower than that, at the lower end of the bid range, but we can't promise that. The purpose of the estimating exercise is to help us build budget and make sure that the budget is realistic.
Lastly, what I just wanted to say is this is from information that we were provided, is that the other highlighted line at the bottom shows our fundraising goals. We have put a number in there for 350,000. If that changes, or if there's concern that that's too high or too low, please let me know, because that also affects our bottom line about what our total project budget is. And so I know that's a moving target, and I know that's a work that's got a long ways ahead of us on this, but
Can I ask you a question about this last section, Katie, through you? Should there be a line in here for the grant we just tried to apply for? That's not on this list.
So
Unless I'm missing it, I could
The
be missing.
CDBG is one of those very, very light yellow ones, and there's nothing in it
Where
right
is it?
now.
CDBG.
It's
I don't-
2 lines below the orange housing choice.
Right here.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm looking on the right, excuse me, I'm sorry. Okay, I see it now. No, you're right.
so
I was
Ken,
thinking-
even more importance about the warrant.
Yeah.
Language. As it's been told to me, is that it's either the additional borrowing or the CDBG. And so if we receive say the CDBG was $1 million.
Right.
The way that I interpret what's been told to me,
Right.
that means that our total
budget.
budget is now 10.5.
Exactly, that's right. But the vote was.
5 plus the grant.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
I want to mention one thing, and we breezed over the fundraising. Most fundraising success occurs while the building is under construction. People actually see it happening. It gets a lot of press, and the fundraising numbers build very quickly during that period. And especially if they do some walkthroughs, when we can. And I think that number right now is a very conservative number for fundraising. I mean, the town of Millbury, we raised $900,000, and that was, 20 years ago. It's surprising how, when people see what's happening, how quickly they're willing to do a memorial piece or whatever. So keep that in mind. Let's leave that number just like it is, but I think it has a good potential to raise.
Should we take that CPC line out of there, since we know it's dead meat?
Yeah, community preservation funds could probably come out.
I'll take it up.
Yeah, this is
So to let the committee know, Barbara, the town finance director, has asked regarding bond council had some questions. We are revamping these funding sources here at the bottom. We'll take that one out, but we also wanted to put in there other sticks in the fire that you have right now for potential other funding sources. So
and though it's not on the agenda, since we're talking about outside funding sources, I should announce we did not get invited back to the second round of the Health Foundation grant, which is really disappointing, because the meeting that I had with the grant administrator was very positive and seemed like there was a really good alignment between our project and that. But the good news is that due to the nature of what we applied for, 122,000 for the fitness room, there in the timeline, there's actually really nothing that would prohibit us from applying again next year for those funds. So I haven't given up yet.
Yeah, so I think that wraps us with budget. If everyone's comfortable with that, obviously, we're open to any other suggestions that maybe some people have. And we also have asked our design team to identify other things that we could put on a list. It doesn't mean that we just throw away the VE list and we're done now at this point. It's a living document that we're adding and subtracting to.
Zion, can you tell us, when in the process do we have to order the alternates?
Yep.
Prior to the bid, or
Yep, so one of the, John may disagree, but during that, before it goes out to bid, we need to identify exactly what our alternate list is in priority. And so on bid day, when we receive our bids, we're gonna use a third-party online bidding service. So at 2:01 on the date that we say, we'll get an email with a spreadsheet of everything, and you'll see the low bid, and then every bid that they have for an alternate with it. Certain alternates have other pieces and other subs that go into it, so it really, you need to make the decision after all the bids come in order what alternates you'd like to take, and usually it's budget driven at that point, whether or not you can take them.
Yes, absolutely.
we have to take them in the order that.
Order. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, and so we will want to, and we don't need to know it now.
Yep.
But at some point, we would want to have a conversation about how the order of the alternates and.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct, 100%. And the reason for the forcing you to do that instead of cherry picking the ones that you want is to eliminate bid rigging.
Yes.
Say that you have a low bidder that I know and I've had a bad experience with, but if you take the second low bidder and alternate 3, then we have a different scenario. And so it keeps it really rigid and makes the low bidder the bidder. So.
Yeah.
Much as I'd like to.
Ellen has a question.
One thing for Dennis, I just mention one thing is we don't want 15 alternates. We need to keep the alternate list fairly concise. I don't know what Brian and Matt might say, but I like to keep it, 6 would be a lot, maybe
Sure, that's a lot.
7. So keep that in mind that, and the alternates are there to help you. It's not that you most likely will get a number of them, but not all of them. You may only get one, but the deal is to understand that that does not prevent you down the road of getting some of these things in line once the budget gets worked out and you spend your money. And you may get some fundraising that will help buy in an alternate later. There's some technicalities of that, and we won't get into those details. But your list is in order, and you'd like to keep it fairly limited.
Okay, that's good to know, John. I'm sorry, Ellen, good.
It looks here like the generator and multi-purpose room partition are in the alternate.
Still being carried as that.
But it's
Yes.
my understanding that those are definite.
Correct.
They're definites. They're in that number at the bottom.
bottom line, it is
It's a function of the way the spreadsheet
Yes,
is.
you leave it there.
Yeah.
because that's all.
Why?
Our job, the whole job for OPM and the architect is to bring this baby in on budget. If it doesn't come on budget, you don't get it. So you put in some things that are expensive right up front in the first number 1 or 2 in your alternates, but they're big items. You want to hit the budget. I've never had it not get the first 2 or 3 alternates, but you rarely get all of them.
Talk about the same thing with John.
Yeah.
Come on, John, go on.
We did it, the estimate had it broken out, so we
Yeah.
just used it. We
Yeah.
were copying what came in as our estimate and wanted to make it,
Okay, so the order you have them here is not necessarily the order.
No, it does not
The
have.
Stone veneer is certainly not the number one.
Oh, no, not at all. In fact, it's going to be the committee's decision. We all make a recommendation, but the committee decides how the alternates are listed.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I noticed that you actually had put on the small list that you had used the term yes on the right for a couple of those.
Possible alternate. Yes, actually, I can.
I differ in that thinking completely.
So
My point is that if we determine we have a savings, it's a savings and take it. don't use it as an ad alternate. I think the committee should be strong enough to decide it's a savings,
Mhm.
and we're not gonna have it as an ad alternate because we just don't think we need it.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
So the purpose of that, I understand your point completely, Ken. The purpose of saying possible alternate is that they were scope items that related to a single trade of scope and would be easy candidates to add or take out of the project without overcomplicating the documents.
Yeah.
That's all it is. If we decide that we want to accept them and
To your
Take
point,
care of
the
them,
ones
we
on this list.
Yeah.
We should take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
if they're out, they're out.
all I'm trying to say is that as a committee, I think it's important if we decide that we want to just save money, no sense even putting it back as an add-on. Just leave it out.
Right, so, well, in that, just occurred to me, what happened to the pergola to the left of the front
We
door?
never got to it. Never got to the discussion.
Hasn't been touched.
Is
So
it
it's up.
still there?
No, it's still.
Still
Still
there.
there?
Yeah.
Okay, that's one that I can,
So we can take that out, right?
So
talked about already.
we never, it never reached the point of any piece of paper that I saw.
okay.
And looking at.
I tell you right now, don't strip the building for fear of budget. We're gonna hit this budget. We're gonna get a new estimate. We should make these decisions right now, and I will walk you through why it's important down the road.
I just totally disagree, John.
And the
Sorry.
attention.
That's all right.
Was
Ken always disagrees with me.
like things that don't impact too much, but we can realize it now without making a real hard decision or argument at this point.
So it's important for us to understand, and I'm taking this from you guys. We went through a value engineering step, but we haven't completed the bid documents. So we still have through the construction document phase to potentially have found a few more things. Am I right about that?
Yes.
So everyone can think about it that way. We're not done with this thinking. We should keep
I
thinking.
lost you guys.
Oh,
I don't want to hear.
Hello?
The answer to that.
yeah, it's still working. Can
Okay,
you hear,
so-
John?
We have a chance.
They didn't want me to hear what Ken was saying, that's all. I understand.
He was saying that he loves working with you, John.
Yeah, keep up the good work, Ken.
It has its ups and downs, believe me.
Okay.
But Ken's right. We have a long ways to go, especially now that we're talking about not getting construction going till October. That gives us a lot of time to really tighten the drawings, get really good numbers back from the cost estimator and maybe the second cost estimator, so that we have a good, solid handle on where this is going. My job, and the OPM's on my team on this, our job is to bring this in on budget. There's nothing worse than having to go back to bid again, listening the whole job out another 8 weeks or 10 weeks. So our job is to make sure that we have enough ad alternates to make sure it hits the budget. And we won't know that until the final drawings, are very close to finals, are issued out. And we're very close to that, by the way. I've got 90% all of my engineering in hand. We just got it recently. And I dropped off with the building department a very, very complete set for them to look through. I drove it down last week, so he's had a chance to start looking at it. I asked him to get back to me with any concerns he has. And I think Ken's been in front of the planning. Has the planning board seen these drawings? I think so, right? Is that correct?
The
Ken?
planning board at this point in time only needs what we gave them in the submittal, the elevations. They don't need that detail of the architectural.
Yeah, but they have seen it. So, I mean, the
Well, they haven't
idea
seen
that,
them. I'm on the planning board. I've seen them, but other people on the planning board haven't seen it. No.
yeah, but we've gotten feedback from you and I think if there's any glaring,
No, there's no
issues,
problem.
yeah, and same with the building department. I'll check back with him this coming week. Or if you see him, just check with him. I haven't heard anything yet, but I did ask him if you see anything that we might have omitted or misunderstood, or he needs clarification on that would be a big help because we want these drawings going to the cost estimator as complete as possible. So he can give us a very good number, and then we'll review that with you and first the working committee and then over to the main committee. And I think we'll know a lot more by
alluded to it
late
earlier.
June.
You own a estimate with us as well, and
It's in our budget.
it's in our contract now, so you guys.
Yeah, we can either take it out or leave it
You
or
could
use
take
it.
it out, or you could use it later, and I'm wondering, just because of this new information that we have, we're gonna have a period of time where maybe it would be smart to stagger it. Usually, my experience is that John will go and get his, and we get ours at the exact same time, and then we get the estimators in the room, we reconcile so that we feel confident about this.
Yeah.
Knowing that, you know, our contracts are, we don't have a million estimates to do, it might be smart to stagger them and maybe get another one later on in the process to see where we're
No,
at, so.
the estimate that you're providing, if I recall this for your document, is not in-house at Vertex. It's still an outside estimate.
Absolutely, yep,
Correct.
It's independent, yep.
So
That's
there's no.
PMA or whatever their name is, they're
There's
very
no
good. They're
chance
very
during
good.
that process that Vertex could take another look and say, maybe there's some other VE.
oh, we're doing that as well, yep.
I just want to emphasize to the committee that we can still use you guys through this process too,
Yeah.
to look at value engineering.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Speaking of value engineering and the sake of time, can we move forward into
Yes.
our discussion about the parking lot and the kitchen? So at our last meeting, we had talked about reductions in the parking lot, and there was a lot of conversation about the raised walkway versus a non-raised walkway. And you know, per the notes here, John really wants us is leaning on the safety piece of it to keep the walkway in the center. The $30,000 savings is assuming, and I'm confirming here, that that's assuming we keep the raised walkway and we change the granite that's there, but there could be more than $30,000 savings if we took the whole thing and went just to striped asphalt.
The number you see in this list here is cutting the granite curbing by 25%.
And also, I think Dan V, who's not present for this discussion, said that taking the end caps off, he'd be very happy with the plowing issues there.
That's not, unfortunately, he's got an error there. I believe that's gonna become out, there's landscaping there, I think there's all
Yeah,
these.
we're taking out the landscaping too there.
that-
Yeah, he knows that.
You can't,
So,
we can't do that through the planning board. That-
All right,
That's
so-
bullshit.
right, so that will create,
That'll
like,
create-
part of what we've been weighing is what is the ripple effect of each of these VE options? And so you're pointing out that if we remove the end caps and the planning board
Yeah, what are,
problem.
just for clarification, okay, we have submitted the drawings to the planning. The drawings, in all probability, I believe the entire project has, and I wish I had it with me, either vertical granite or vertical granite with that clipped bevel edge, okay? Which is even more expensive than vertical granite, because that's going through the process the second time. So my preference now, and I think the recommendation would be, we gotta go through the planning board the way it is, okay? Then, when we look at where all the vertical granite curb is, and we can turn those edges into sloped granite curb.
Yeah.
Save the vertical, let's say on the extremes outside of not near the building, we can't do it down those islands in the middle. But I would leave any changes we have to make, we can do them later, is what I'm getting at, as a group, and decide later at the same. But I like the idea that we have a goal of 30,000 at least to save. So let's leave it, I would like to leave it there. And I don't want to touch anything and talk about anything until we get through the site plan approval, which shows landscaping. There's requirements, and it was nice for me to meet for the first time, the actual civil engineer, Jim DeVellis, okay, who was gonna make the presentation with John to the planning board. I can't make the presentation. I'm on the board with a vote. So they will make the presentation. And
Can you vote? As a member of the planning board?
I got an opinion from council a long time ago, exactly the status that I can vote. There's no conflict, because I have no financial benefit or anything, so I'm sitting there as a neutral person voting on a project. But I can't be a presenter, so, that's the way to go. And so my preference now is, as the town departments are looking at that, and they're gonna look at the landscape plan, and they're gonna look at these other things, they're gonna agree that all this is designed correctly. But then later on, if we decide, look, we think we could have a potential saving here, we literally would go back for a minor
It's
modification.
gonna ask that the amendment type process.
A very
on that, yeah.
tiny.
Yeah.
Go back type thing, and then we would have a very solid case for saving money. Like let's leave it.
We'd be starting from the standpoint where we had been approved though, and then we.
Correct. You're starting from the standpoint that it's all approved. And the other thing we have to be careful of here, strangely enough, this goes, but everything is complicated. Nothing is simple. The MISA process requires that there be a slope. Now, John's architect and John put the clip on the vertical to compensate potentially for the turtles. But it's actually a better solution if it's strictly not vertical granite curve, but it's just slope granite curve. So that may even come up later on with MISA, that all the curve might have to be sloped. That's what they want, surprisingly enough. So let's leave it the way it is now, my recommendation. Let it go through, keep the cost savings there as a way for us to look for that in the future.
Would there be an amendment process to planning to say MISA's making us do this?
Well, interestingly enough, you're gonna put it in the decision, I'm gonna put it in the decision that you don't have site plan approval until MISA and MIPA are in.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get a
Conditional.
decision that's written up. We're gonna get a decision that's gonna include the approval of MISA and MIPA for the final site plan review.
Got it.
And then that'll, as soon as they come in, and I also am gonna be sending that letter to the planning board to have them put it in the documents, and they'll post it online with our documents. All our documents are posted online now. If anyone wants to see them online or in the planning board stuff. So that's what, I like the idea of having the 30,000 savings, but I don't think we can identify that close to that. If anyone else has a comment.
I understand that, and I'm supportive of that. I guess I would like this committee to be able to weigh out at some point.
Absolutely.
And maybe it is not
Right.
until after our next cost estimate comes
Yeah.
in. The potential lever of going from the raised sidewalks
Right.
to just the flat.
Right.
Asphalt. And keep in mind, I would like the raised sidewalks, so it's not like I don't want them. But I would like, because that's clearly a much larger than $30,000 savings. So I would just like to have that number available in case it's something we want to do later.
Yeah, it's very much worthwhile, but again, the problem for the town is that there is a liability issue that you need to think about. So
Yeah.
don't let that leave. We have a lot of problems with the elder drivers, and we need to have the wheels stopped rather than going through where the walkway. The reason we don't have it in Wilbraham because the walkway is going parallel with the building. Nobody's walking along it. But here we're walking to the building. People are parking. It's extremely dangerous. That's all.
I think we all agree with it conceptually.
What's good?
It's my understanding though that Wilbraham, it was nixed by the person who was in charge of their maintenance, who said it would be too hard to do the plowing.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what ma-
yeah. So they're willing to sacrifice elders over ease of plowing, 10 snowstorms a year. That's ridiculous. The
So-
reason why we allowed it in Wilbraham is because it's running parallel with the building. Nobody's walking along that, even though they now park across it. And I think some people have seen the pictures that we've sent, that they're blocking people to walk along.
Do we know how many people in Wilbraham have been seriously injured or killed in the parking lot?
Nobody has.
Well, because listen, you want me to send you information of what happens at schools when elder parents are driving their kids to school, their grandchildren, and they run over people? These folks run over people. The reason why we don't have that problem in Wilbraham because nobody's walking along the path there. It's parallel with the building. Here, if you leave your car 20 cars out, you walk down the center line safely. You don't walk down the middle of the driveway. In Wilbraham, they don't have that. So that's why.
I
So
got
for the
something, I have to follow up with what the planning board stuff is, sorry. The planning board stuff is important, okay? But John just said, so there's a very important thing that happened here that's kind of above committee, in the fact that we are applying for a waiver from the zoning regulations, okay? And I have the document right here. It's online as well. This is the document that I put together and we submitted. Pretty amazing piece of work. The long and short of it is that we were given the opportunity to go for a waiver because parking lots in front of the building are not allowed in the town of Ayer under commercial projects. And the whole concept of the waiver, which got legal advice on, is designed around safety. So even what John just said and about the raised walks will get us through the process of the waiver request, which has to be voted on, okay? Because I can read you the waiver request if you want, but the long and the short of it is it's all about the difference between the senior community and regular commercial buildings. And that's the reason for the parking lot in front of the building. So I won't read all the language, okay, just about the sections and all that. But I'll read you what the response to the paragraph is. It was put together by Katie, pretty much. The new senior center is not designed to serve the general public. It is designed to serve the specific needs of older adults. The proportion of disabled, handicapped, and able-bodied users is not the same as the general public. Complying with the existing zoning would create a safety hardship for older adults. Requiring 85% of the parking lot to be in the rear of the building requires older adults, up to 40% of whom have mobility-related disabilities per the CDC, to walk long distances and navigate around the building, which is particularly challenging in inclement weather. So requirement is that you can't have more than 15% of the parking in front of a building. That's the requirement. Okay, we're waiving, trying to waive that. Goes on to say, placing the parking lot in front minimizes the distance to the primary entrance, significantly reducing the risk of falls, allows older adult-specific safety features of the parking lot to function as designed, which we just said. The parking lot design in front of the building is based on one-way traffic through the parking lot to reduce accidents. Rear-based parking could necessitate two-way traffic around the building and through the narrow sides of the lot. Two-way traffic is discouraged in senior center design for safety. Preliminary meetings with the fire department, police department yielded approval to the traffic pattern in the front-facing parking lot. Complying with zoning creates a greater risk of harm for older adult population. So we're looking to get a 5-0 vote on that section. So that's why I'm saying it's a little early for us to speak anything.
So I hear that, and that's an important caveat, right. So there's 3 people who have talked a lot. How about the rest of the committee?
Yep.
Is the rest of the committee comfortable with, and I'm summarizing, if this summary is not correct, let me know, that we want the $30,000 worth of parking lot savings right now. It is in the advantage of the project going through the planning board process to not make a further decision upon it until later. And unless we had a cost estimate that came back that required substantial additional VE at a later time. Does that resonate with everybody else?
Start with Dennis.
I understand John's point, and I understand that there's a safety component to wanting the raised. It's just been my general observation of parking lots and et cetera, that when people exit their car, they will take a left-hand turn, walk into the parking lot, and then proceed to their destination. They will not close the door, move towards the front of the car, up on a sidewalk. And in fact, it's been my observation that seniors as a general group prefer walking as much as possible on flat surfaces, and that step up onto the curbing, et cetera, is frequently a place where falls occur. So,
that's true.
So all that being said, I would be anxious to hear what the rest of the committee feels, or I don't know if we can get drilled down into how much of a safety risk it is, as opposed to the general stipulation that it is a safety risk.
Okay. Linda?
So I agree with what Dennis has said. However, I don't think we're the ones to judge. There's gotta be safety studies out there because when you start researching, most accidents happen in parking lots from backing up. I understand the trip hazard, but does it have to be raised? And my other thing is, if people are driving too fast, is that really gonna stop them? When people come in pulling in and hit a curb, it's usually because they're going too fast. So is that really gonna be the safety? Originally, was hesitant to take it out for safety purposes, but again, who's the safety person? I think we really need someone to determine, or, somebody has experience in that.
John, oh, he's on the other line, but John,
Well,
when you
John's
come back.
gonna
Yeah,
say he's the
he's-
safety guy.
I think it would be nice to see some of the safety information that he's compiled that makes him want to design the parking lots that way. I think that's a reasonable ask. Yeah. Okay, Dave?
Catch 22. I mean, if we take the raised sidewalk out, you're still gonna have to put a curb, you're gonna incur an additional expense with curb stops for the vehicles. And then now you're gonna have a maintenance issue where every time somebody hits one, you gotta go back out and reset it, put the new pins, fix it. It's gonna be, when you're trying to plow the driveway, it's tougher for the plow drivers. Whereas if you've got the raised walkway, there's nothing there, they can plow right down along the side of it, and snow blow it out, makes the maintenance aspect of it easier for the guy that's gotta do it. So you kind of, you take the raised walkway out, you still have to put a curb stop, still have to put something to stop the vehicle. And you still have a maintenance issue. Whereas if you leave the raised walkway, now I go down with the snow blower, I blow it out, the plow guy comes by, he plows it out of the way. You make my life easier in the wintertime when I'm trying to keep the parking lot clearer. Cause it's easier now, I come down, I salt it, it's nice and clear, and that might draw people to walk up it towards the building as opposed to walking in the parking lot.
But was it determined that if we didn't do the raised bed, there would be a curb stop? Or was it gonna just be an open walkway field?
Well, the way
Like a
we left
driveway.
it at our last meeting was that we wanted to see the numbers on what each of those options would save us. So I don't think that was settled. I mean, I do see Ken's point about waiting to make that decision until after we've gone through the planning board process because we've already submitted. But that's a fair point. It's a fair question. Bonnie?
I'm tending to sort of go with the raised curbing, and I'm just looking at the number $30,000. It doesn't seem like, it doesn't seem like substantial amount of savings for safety, and I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. So, are there other savings like changing, and I know, approval probably has already been done and all, but, could there be additional savings in the type of substance that is used for the actual parking lot,
No, the pavement.
Just to,
Yeah.
just to
like the
clarify
right?
though, the $30,000 really doesn't have anything to do with the sidewalk discussion. It's being held at $30,000 to reflect changes in granite curbing on the outside edges of the parking lot.
Okay,
So
all right.
that's what it's in there, carrying 30,
For just the outside,
just those outside
Curbing.
edges.
Okay.
And then awaiting whether or not we make the decision about the sidewalks.
Can we eliminate all the granite altogether and just go with an asphalt berm?
I think
The
Dan
sidewalks.
said that was not desirable for plowing, but that in some areas he could, which I think is what
Oh,
that
right,
$30,000
yeah.
reflects. The areas where Dan said
Yep.
it would be okay to remove the granite from.
and go with asphalt,
No,
no?
Nothing's just
Slope,
Here's
slope granite.
go off the driveway.
it'll be a slope granite.
Yeah,
It's not my turn, I'm sorry. I'm waiting.
I mean, personally, like, I'm all for safety and I'm just sort of confused because like I've been in different parking lots and I understand the raised aspect. I just don't have enough information, like Linda said, it's like, where are the studies? Like I've been to Belmont. Belmont, I don't think has raised, you just drive in and they're marked and you park and
Oh, they do have, I designed
they
Belmont.
they
Yes.
do have raised.
He did
I was,
Not,
I was the
not
architect.
everywhere though. Not
No,
everywhere.
I was the architect on that.
I know you.
Unfortunately, they chose not granite, they chose concrete, which
Yeah.
has been totally beaten to death by the plows, just like what would happen with asphalt. It does not hold up. Granite's there forever. Slope granite, if it's done right, will last just as long as regular granite. And if you really want to see an example of how this works, go out and visit Longmeadow. They have a 200-person parking lot and they have raised walkways and you can talk to the users there. They're extremely positive about it. You could call the administrator, or I can give you some names to talk to. But to give you an idea, we visited Hanson years ago. That's their senior center. They did not have any raised areas at all. And all their light poles that were not protected were laying down by the side of the parking lot because they had been hit by seniors and knocked the light poles down.
So John, when you had to step
Yeah.
off the call there for just a second, one of the committee members requested, could you share some of the traffic and safety data that you've used in
Yep.
order to come to that conclusion?
Absolutely.
Right.
I'll
that
give
would
you
that'd be helpful.
35 years of designing these. And the ones that we've not used raised walkways, they've either damaged light poles, damaged cars. In the town of North Andover, the senior center was behind the town hall. The town hall employees stopped parking in the parking lot because of all the damage to their cars by not having safety areas for the seniors to drive through. That's why we do our lots wider, our parking areas wider with double lines, because we don't see as well. So I'll
Yeah.
put that together for you. I'd be happy to.
Yeah, that would be.
That would
Give
be
you a lot of images too.
And that could actually come in handy for the planning board presentation as well, to have a concise packet of that.
We got enough.
Well, I understand, but it wouldn't hurt, but it would satisfy the questions that this committee
Yeah,
has
so this committee, fine.
for this committee.
Yeah.
And then, if substantiating material was needed, we could refer to it as planning board. Okay. All right. Ellen.
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry. But based on what Ken said earlier, it's already been presented to the zoning, so I don't think right now we should go on his recommendations, keep it as it is.
That was the question that I went around the
Yeah.
table.
Right.
Is everybody okay with putting off this decision?
Yes.
Knowing that if we had dire financial straits after the next cost estimate, we could come back and revisit it, but it makes sense to move forward with it as it is right now. Knowing we can realize $30,000 in VE, but not more than 30,000 until a later date.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so
Yeah.
yes for everybody? Okay.
I'll make
all right.
my final recommendation on this subject is we put it on the agenda. I bring the site plans here to the table and we look at the site plans together and we understand what we're talking about, not just the raised walkways, but the landscaping, all those plans, put them right here. And we just look at it together. That's the way we should do it. So we get a clear understanding. So that when you take out an island, you might be taking out a tree, which was not gonna work.
I think that's a great idea. So do we want to move on to the kitchen
Yes.
and then vote? We can vote on the VE items as a whole, because I think we need to vote for these when we're,
Me, no,
huh?
whatever.
Okay. I think it would be better to have a vote. Okay, so on to the kitchen. So, or the building electrification and the kitchen are kind of enmeshed together. At our last meeting, we talked about an interest in having the kitchen be all electric, but the committee said that you guys were unclear what the costs were related to that. And so we had asked John and Vertex to come back with some more information about, because there's a couple of moving parts on there. So do either of you have anything to add to that?
John's got.
John's leaving.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not leaving. I am waving. Yes, I reached out to the contractor who did the commercial kitchen in Wilbraham, Kittredge. They also came to Long Meadow to correct the work that was done there by a different installer who didn't get it done right. And I gave him the drawing that David was wanting to have. By the way, the drawing they have is a gas stove. They didn't feel that a gas stove would be much different than an induction electric one would be in terms of cost. But the kitchen itself laid out with the walk-in cooler, the two reach-ins, the very large, the extra large range. Our estimate is 175,000 for the equipment, and as designed right now, his estimate, and he hasn't spent a lot of time on it yet. He's going to work on it more, and we can work with Dave on this. His estimate is between 250 and 300,000 for the new design over the estimate that we had originally. I believe that 300 is a little on the extreme side. I think it's probably more like 250 to 275, which is about where I was estimating it before. It's about $75 to $100,000 more. And we talked a little bit about this with Katie and Dave, that some of this might go under FF&E because they're freestanding items. I asked them to estimate it exactly as laid out, and I think, Dave, you've seen that plan. It has a complete list of the equipment. Right now, his number, he called me today. I really pressed him saying, I just need a number to talk about, 250 to 300,000 over our estimate of 175. And I think his 300 number is a little on, maybe it's more like 275. But I felt that that right now we have a somewhere between $50 and $100,000 difference between the kitchen that we saw in Wilbraham and the kitchen that Dave feels we should have for making food from scratch, lunches and dinners. So that's where we are in that. I think the real issue isn't whether it's gas or the real issue is the electrical side of it. It's caused a lot of consternation on the part of our electrical engineer and our MEP guys, and they've been working very hard to keep the service at 1,000 amps versus 12 to 1,300 amps. They're coming in at 480, 277. We've added 3 transformers inside the building to transform it down to 110, 220. And right now, and then we also took out all of the gas. So the hot water heater is all electric. The stove would be an induction, and the reheat for the makeup air to the hood would be changed from gas to electric or heat pump. I'm not sure how he's doing that. And they've redesigned a lot of they've looked at this. They haven't priced it all out yet, but they've redesigned a lot of the equipment so that we could size down the service. The service right now, and I think Ken's going to add some information to this, the service right now with the potential of the 10 extra charging stations down in the future puts us over the amperage that would require the electric room to be enlarged and have double doors and a lot of other safety issues. And we're working on that right now, but I wanted to kind of get that out in front of you today because all this work is stopped pending whether we're all electric or whether we're going to use gas. So am I still being heard?
Yep.
Yeah.
You can,
Oh,
sorry, the owl
wasn't
just
sure.
keeps going in and out, but
Oh,
we can
okay.
still hear you.
You
Yeah.
can still
So
hear
you can
my-
stop looking at my face in just a second.
Yeah.
The owl will
No,
come
you
back
look
on.
great. You look great. So the issue is that when we go back to the cost estimator, I either go all electric or we go with gas. Um, I'm not going to help you make that decision. I think that's a committee decision. It does lend itself to higher operating costs, certainly over the near term. I don't know where propane is going to go, 4 or 5, 6 years from now. But I do know right now that propane is less expensive than electricity is in Massachusetts. But having said that, I think it's a decision that between Dave and the committee and our team and the OPM team need to make in concert. So that's kind of the take.
And you said you had something you wanted to add to that?
Okay, so I spent an awful lot of time on this the last few weeks, with John and with estimators and looking up equipment and whatnot. And I was kind of the person who brought forward the idea of the National Grid rebates and how attractive it was and whatnot. But I have completely changed my mind. So I'm gonna try to influence the committee to go back to the original design, which was not including the full electrification. I'm not talking about the kitchen. I'm breaking it into 2 pieces. It's 2 pieces, okay? So the anticipated change in the service of the building, the size of it, like all this stuff that could impact our risk in the future is, I think, it's just too complicated for the 81,000 or 70,000 or whatever potential we might get. I think we're better off going with the original design, which has the gas in place for 4 critical pieces: cooking, the outside air unit, the fireplace, the hot water heater. And just offset the idea of trying to determine if we can get rebate from National Grid and whatever that paperwork is by continuing to look at other ways we can save money. I just think I'd rather dig into another aspect of the project instead of trying to make all these changes that involve the engineering. And I'm listening to John on this one. I think we're better off sticking with the basic design of the building, the efficiencies it already has, and not trying to redesign the whole concept around the electrification. So that's my electrification point.
Okay, other opinions?
So, John, can I ask, in order to make the change, the electrical changes necessary in the kitchen, did your electrical engineer have to redesign the whole building? Have they said that it would take, more than 1,000 amps? Or you don't know what?
Yeah, it's currently right now more than 1,000 amps, which complicates the electrical room. But understand that right now, it's not the kitchen's not driving this. It's gas, okay? Hot water heater, the stove could be either electric or the stove being electric has to be 480, 277. And one of the problems for Dave is that I think you were looking for 10 burners on the gas, and then when we went electric, the most we can get is 6 on the Garland or the Italian. I can't remember the Italian name, it's a tricky name. We can get 6 burners or induction areas. On the gas stove, we can get 10 pretty easily on the Garland or one of the similar ones. But right now, we originally designed hot water heater gas, stove gas, the heating system, makeup air for the hood gas, and then we have a gas fireplace as an amenity, which can be turned on or not turned on. It doesn't matter. So that's where we are now. We've caused a lot of consternation with the engineers. They have both designs going right now. And I'm hoping that today a decision is made so we can stick with one because I got to get those drawings complete. Right now, our electrical drawings and some of our mechanical drawings are not complete because we've been holding it on this decision.
So my question would be, let's say this committee decides they want to go all electric. And the level of service needs to be increased to accommodate the double door electrical room and all those other things. How much does that add to the project? That's, I think, the information that this committee is asking for.
I can't give you a hard number, but it's a lot. My engineer, my electrical engineer, we're now putting a bunch of transformers in the building, which we didn't have before. The electric room, this is the first building of this small size that she has to do this special electric room. I'm not familiar with that kind of a room, but it's over 1,200 amps. So I can't remember what the problem is, but she's explained it to me. I can certainly find out more about it, but all electric is really.
Okay, so.
So I feel like,
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. I
Right,
don't know
so-
what the number is.
Right, so I hear that and I acknowledge what you're saying. I think what the committee expressed during their last meeting is that they wanted to make this decision both from a conceptual and a financial perspective. So, this is a decision that probably should have been made earlier in the process, but had we made it earlier in the process, your electrical engineer would have need to go through this process. So them needing to do it now isn't like terribly concerning to me. It's,
Really?
what, no.
You're not paying for it, are you?
What? No,
This
no, but what I-
redesign is a big deal. It's very
understand.
expensive.
I understand that. I'm not discounting that, but
Thanks.
it's because it's a redesign versus the initial design, right? So I think the committee is looking for, is the attempt to chase $75,000 worth of rebates? Have we now gone very much lopsided? Because changes in the kitchen are one piece, but changes to the electrical are the other. And I think that's what the committee was asking. We're talking about it conceptually at the last meeting, but they were saying they could not make a decision conceptually. They needed to know some financial information too.
I can assure you that this change exceeds your rebate.
Yeah, it's one of our.
Yeah, that's all I need.
We'd like to get the
If it
kitchen that
stays the
Dave
rate
wants,
pay,
That's
That's all I need to know.
Okay.
but we'd like to get the kitchen that Dave wants, at least make every effort.
So just a couple of thoughts. One, a question for Dave is, given that the induction stove would be limited to 6 burners evidently, and the gas stove, how much of
You'd
it?
have to do 2 4-burner stoves.
Right.
That would be the problem.
So how much of a benefit to the daily operations is it to have 10 available burners? And how does it make the whole process easier for you?
It has more to do with the benefit when you're doing a large function.
Yeah.
Because when you're using a picture of a 10-gallon pot on your stove,
Mhm.
it takes like a burner and a half to sit there for space. So when you're cooking you can only get 3 on a 10-burner stove. You can only get 3 large pots on there at a time to work. So like if you were doing it like a corned beef and cabbage dinner, you'd need
We can get a
3.
10-burner gas one easily.
Right,
though.
a 10-burner
big
gas.
one would be,
You put one here, one there, then you can sneak smaller pans in the back if you needed to.
So
It's
if it
just
were
easier.
a 6-burner or electric, that would be problematic or difficult
Yes.
to manage.
Well, it's not necessarily problematic. It just means you have to adjust how you're doing. So now you'd have to cook half of it now, keep it warm, then cook the other half and then put it together.
There's workflow advantages to having the
Yeah.
larger.
Yes, it's a
Single
definite workflow, it's a definite workflow advantage to have a 10-burner.
The size that you're talking about meals we're only gonna be doing maybe once a month, right? That's not
Yeah,
that size
once a
meal that we'll be doing on a daily basis, right?
Right.
I'm a
Well,
little
I mean-
concerned because we're doing all this value engineering and cutting corners everywhere, but it seems like we've got, the Cadillac of,
It's not,
Oh, you didn't say Taj Mahal. Come on.
the Cadillac of
it's
kitchens.
It's not a Cadillac.
To be fair about it for Dave, just let me interject. I believe we can get a lot of the kitchen that Dave needs, but we don't have to buy it all at once. A lot of this stuff is counter height or on stands. The big walk-in refrigeration unit, we've now created the space for it. We don't need to put it in right now. I mean, he's got two really good refrigerators and a small freezer. We could get started that way, and maybe in a year, we have everything set up to expand that, if we get the basic stuff now.
It's gonna make it a capital expenditure, which means we're gonna have to go back to the capital planning board. You're gonna have to,
No,
all the
you can
wires
fundraise.
have to be there.
You fundraise that refrigerator. You can fundraise that. It's probably
So-
$5,000 or $6,000. What we really can't do is change the range. He needs a double oven and at least 8, if not 10 burners. That's not something you're going to flip out down the road. We need to put that in there now.
Can I redirect us a little bit to, before we get into the real specifics of the kitchen, right? Like, can we put the electrification of the building to rest? So I haven't, again, some members talk up more than others, so can we go through and talk about whether it, in light of the fact that going all electric is going to, from a building design perspective, is going to greatly exceed the cost of the rebate we would get back? Is everybody comfortable with not going that route?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. You are. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. So then we don't have to bring that part back again. So if, John, are you saying that we could fundraise for the walk-in, or are you talking about fundraising for the rebate?
A walk-in can be assembled anytime. It's kind of like the way we talked about the movable partitions. We have all the infrastructure in place, and somebody donates $10,000 and you put the walk-in even before the building opens. I mean, you can designate the walk-in refrigerator as a fundraising item.
It's on the
I don't believe you won't get it. I really believe that you will get the walk-in. We've now created the space for it. And it's not a heavy electric user. So, yeah.
Through you, Katie, to John. John, are you telling the committee that the design that you guys have come up with separately, Dave, and so forth, that you'll accommodate the electrical, HVAC, whatever else we need, piping, drainage, whatever needs to be done for all those components in the drawings that we have when we finish the CD?
Well,
And
what
then
we- yeah.
you can put a piece in later, you don't have to accommodate it or electrical changes or hood changes or anything else.
No, we'll terminate a power line for the future refrigeration walk-in unit, but I believe you'll get it in the final design. We just don't need to put it in the bid. We could
I'm trying to make sure that Dave, everyone's comfortable with the fact that if whatever the kitchen we decide on, even if we do something later, it's got the right mechanical and electrical ready to go.
Well, the real issue for Dave is that he would like to have a double oven and 10 burners. And those 10 burners, by the way, you can flip off 4 of them and put a grill there, if you want a grill, do a pancake supper or something. So that's the one item that you're just not going to change. So if we get that in the base bid, which is a little bit more than what we were carrying, and then a lot of these, I think I know that I talked a little bit with Dave and Katie. A lot of the things he needs are loose items. They're not built in. We need outlets. We need power for them, but we don't need. We're not creating a situation where you can't put them in.
Right, I think Ken's question was relative to the walk-in though.
No, it's relative to the.
Well, the walk-in is not a big deal. We have the space already. We've always had it. We designed a walk-in that fits it. It's a prefab item. You come in and assemble it and plug it in. Done.
But the walk-in, he's talking about the mechanical equipment just mounted on top of the walk-in. It's not vented outside.
Usually we'll mount it outside with
You can vent it outside, but a lot of times they just put the compressor on the top. The
Yeah,
problem.
it just creates heat inside. What we have an area right now. We have an area right now for the heat pump system. It's a enclosed fenced-in area, and we just dropped that unit right there, and it works. But we can wherever there will be room for it. We have plenty of ceiling height.
Let's go back to it and change it.
Sorry, I cut out.
We want an external condenser, the evaporator, some
I
side.
guess.
I
Let's
would
take it.
prefer that.
The slab.
I want you to have everything you need mechanically and electrically.
Right, yeah, I agree. That's what I'm saying. Mechanically and electrically, we want to make sure that it's all in place for the end kitchen we would like to have.
Yep.
Okay, all right. So just as a point of clarification, John, earlier you were saying, you know, $75,000 to $100,000 more, and Vertex is carrying 50,000.
That's from a in group. But
Okay.
I think that number is more in.
Yep.
That number.
Okay, so
That was the number we had early on before I gave it to Kittredge.
the 50,000 appeared
It
in
came
the
from the
value
discussion we had at the workings. This
Yeah.
number is more.
and then the 75 to 100,000 that John
It's
just
a new
mentioned.
number. Yeah, that's from Kittredge. That's a new number from Kittredge. Today, I got it this afternoon at around 2 o'clock. And I have not spent a lot of time on it. It's just that he gave me 250 to 300,000. I really kind of felt his 300,000 was a bit extreme. And I really will do better than that.
What do you include in that 300,000?
The whole kitchen.
Everything, the whole works.
Tops.
Yeah, the whole kitchen, including some of the new stuff. I gave him, he carried a 10-burner stove with double ovens. And I said, well, what if it's electric? He said it wouldn't make much difference except for power, of course. So you could get the 10-burner gas with double ovens. And I think right now, the 175,000, we would be adding one. We already bought one refrigerator, right? Katie has it right now. We'd buy one more, which has always been in that 175,000. We'd buy a small freezer, which is, yeah, it's in that 175. So right now, we'd be paying additional money for the size of the stove, and maybe the hood might get bigger. I don't know, 10 burners versus, I think we had 8. I can't imagine 2 burners are going to make a big difference in the hood.
I could ask you that. Well, go ahead, sorry, John.
Can I ask, so the 50,000 additional that you had in that was added into the estimate was for Dave's modifications to the original design, but it did not assume electrification.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
And
now,
also,
the conversation is that 50,000 number accurate, or do we need to kick that up a notch?
John's saying it's 75 to 100.
Now it's 75.
well, that's with everything, but we're talking, I don't think we're going to bid this thing. We could bid it, we could make the refrigeration unit and add alternate, but right now it's a prefab thing. I mean, you can drop it in 6 weeks after the center opens if you have somebody give you the money. I mean, it's not a big deal. I would leave that 50,000 now if we decide that we're not going to electrify the kitchen, and we'll do the stove first, include that with one additional refrigerator, which we're counting, I think we're counting, we had one reach-in refrigerator, double door, and one freezer. Now we already have one, so now we'll be adding one more. So it'd be stay about the same, plus the stove. So, I mean, the fact that we let go of electrification is a big deal. for us. And I think we'll try and make the kitchen work.
Can I ask a related question to you guys? So the 150 for the kitchen equipment, food service equipment, it says food, I'm looking at Fogarty's, it's in our original
175 for Fogarty.
building number.
Yeah, it's 175.
I'm looking at 150.
He's seeing 150.
You're right. So
My estimate that I
Oh.
have from has
the
175.
point is, it's in the total cost of the building. It's not in the separate list.
Is that the January 30th?
It's not in FF&E, correct.
It's within the.
Yep.
The real cost.
I did send Katie over today. I know we're talking about two different things, but we sent over Littleton's kitchen package.
Oh, okay.
And how much it costs is about 180 grand is what we had in there. It does not include general conditions and everything of overhead that the GC puts on top. That's hard to extrapolate, but I did send.
Brian, would you send that to me, please?
Okay.
What do they have for a computer? Off the top of your head, you know, if they had equipment, do they have a mixer? Do they have, no, I don't believe they had a mixer. You had a 48-inch electric, range. They had a. There's a double oven. There's that. You're ready for the generator that you have.
I can send this around to everybody just to make
I'm
sure.
gonna cough on the kitchen.
We actually have 4 ovens in this kitchen right now. We had 3, but we added one under Dave, but we have 2 vertical, what they call pizza ovens, but they're actually ovens. They're warming ovens. So you can cook in them. Those are electric.
Convection, you've got two blocks of convections.
Yeah. Stacked.
Yeah.
So we have
Is that how we're
is there any other item in this big budget around the kitchen, equipment and all appliances, and we don't have any separate items on the
No,
original budget. It's all Fogarty's budget.
yep. Inclusive all the MEPs that come with it is included in Fogarty's budget.
Because in Fogarty's budget, the appliances are not in the contract. Well, I don't know what he considers appliances, I'm not sure what size that is and stuff like that.
The stove and blodgett ovens are in there, but the added and the ice maker's in there. But Dave's got a mixer. He's got a couple of other, countertop. Yeah, those are not in that budget. And those are easy, they could be covered in FF&E. They're loose items. It's best that you don't have the contractor supply them anyhow, because we're going to be doing all kinds of markups on them.
This is the
What we
kind
don't
of thing
need to
that
do.
we're balancing it later in the job.
Yeah.
To try to figure out FF&E.
To John's point, there's less markup if you're procuring
I get
it
it,
through
yeah.
FF&E, so.
It's not connected to the building.
But the electrical will accommodate
Yes.
everything that,
Yes,
Yes.
they're mostly 120 outlets. Maybe the mixer might take
The
two.
mix probably a 220.
it has to be placed in the right place.
Okay, so for the sake of time, is everybody comfortable with where we are on the kitchen? Because we do need to vote, we need to do an official vote on the electrification and an official vote to table the parking lot discussion. That was on the agenda.
I'll make a motion that we, after thorough investigation, the committee found that building electrification for the rebate for National Grid was not offset by savings in building construction. And therefore we decided not to go full electrification for the project. Second.
Okay, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, sorry, the chair said aye too, so it passes, okay. All right, and then, can I get a motion to, accept the current VE savings of $30,000 on, the parking lot, but to keep someone can reword this, but to keep the original parking lot sidewalks as specified in the site plan and submitted to the planning board?
Second.
Oh, okay, I guess I just made it. All right.
So moved.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, chair says aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, wonderful. Thank you, guys. Okay. So it sounds to me like, and I'm sorry, I'm bouncing around. It sounds to me like based on the kitchen, that there's one point of view that it might be a lot to spend at the time that we're also value engineering elsewhere. And then some opinions that this could be, the impact of it could be mitigated by moving some of the categories into fundraising or into FF&E. But that the base amount of things isn't, making sure the electrical, plumbing, and
Any mechanical
any mechanicals
and electric.
would be in place, wouldn't substantively add to the kitchen bid. Am I summarizing that fairly? Okay, is everyone comfortable with that?
So, so we have, based on the Fogarty January of 2026 numbers from their estimate, we have a cost of the kitchen. Or estimated cost of kitchen. It is estimated that given Dave's requests and given John's acknowledgement of what is or is not doable, we anticipate an additional expense on top of that of approximately 70.
If it was all rolled into the base bid, but John is saying it doesn't have to be that much because we could pull some of it out of the base bid and put it into FF&E and or hope to get some of it via fundraising. Or an add-on to. Suppose or an add alternate. Yeah.
The thinking there is that putting it in FF&E makes it so that you can procure it directly without incurring GC markup off the equipment. If it's something that's not attached to the building, but it's something that you could potentially get into a less expensive thing.
Matt is right on that because when you start adding up all the little percentage increases due to the general contract, insurance bond, markup, profit and overhead, you do much better buying that as an item and having it assembled by the supplier outside of the contract.
Okay, thanks for that.
All right, if there's nothing else, we can move on to public input.
Wait a minute,
Yep.
do we have to take a vote on that kitchen thing at all?
I guess we could. We don't.
What-
I mean, we didn't. I don't
So
know
it's
that
not-
it was. But I don't
Kitchen
know
is
that.
not specifically identified on your agenda,
Yeah, it
so I
was.
don't think you can.
We were talking about.
Yeah, I guess that's true. We can, but it was part of the building electrification discussion. But you're right, it should have been. It should have been its own line item, but I don't know that it requires a vote at this point because it's not for inclusion in the VE list, which is also.
Yeah, good
Right.
point.
Okay.
Wait, I'm sorry. I just have one question to John. Did the kitchen get redesigned in the drawings to accommodate what was asked for?
We have
Okay.
two complete designs for the kitchen. The
Yeah,
original
okay.
design and now
think-
Dave's design. And
All right, I think I
yeah.
missed that part.
I
Okay,
can send that back out. Do you want me to send that back out to the group? I'll do that.
yeah, I think that would be great. Yep.
And we'll see, Bill.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, so the
okay.
original, I'll send you the full set of drawings that has the original kitchen, which is very similar to the Wilbraham kitchen.
Right.
And then there was a one-page addition for the kitchen.
So does the Fogarty bid from
Okay.
2026? Is that off the original design or off of the
Yes.
second? design
The
with
original
the
design.
Fixers
The
and
original.
Original, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Fogarty's not seen the new design. Kittredge has, but not Fogarty.
Okay.
Anything else before I take a motion to adjourn? Oh, gosh,
pay the bills?
gotta pay the bills. All right. All right, so I will let you guys. talk
Yeah,
about-
sure. For period ending March 31st, we have a few bills to take care of, and then I will go through them, and then I have one thing I want to bring your attention to that we're working on currently. For month ending in March, you have invoice for Vertex, our monthly sum of $20,448. Callan Architecture for construction documents for $70,786. David E. Ross Land Survey. This was something that, additional work that was done on the survey for $3,549.
That was the final bill for the.
Correct. And then we had,
Bill for the approval not required plan.
I see.
we had 5 invoices that came from Goddard. As you remember, we voted to approve all of their additional tasks, and they've started billing against some of them. Some of which are complete, some of which are partials, that we've reviewed with Dan. The total for Goddard is the $12,640.24 for a total of $107,423.24 for the month of March. I just do want to bring attention, the backup is there, but if you go to page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think it's 9, it's our budget status report.
Yeah.
Which shows you what we spent to date, what we have left to spend, and what's available currently for us right now, based upon what the changes we've made. Is we've brought this budget. I know we've got a couple different iterations. What we've done here is brought this right back to the budget on what we did for town meeting. I think this is the clearest way that we can do it. We're showing you other documents of our living budget as things move from one step to the other. But for our financials and what budget we're working from is off of the approved budget that we did at town meeting. The one line item that I wanted to bring your attention to is line item 20.85. It's almost exactly halfway down the page. That's for our permits and approvals. And if you can see, we've blown that budget out by the tune of over $50,000 at this point. And there's a reason for it. What we did is we assigned a lot of the pre-work before Vertex's involvement that was done through UDAG and through initial ARPA funds, that original we'll call it Kickstarter that was here for this project. A lot of that we lumped into what we just called permits and approvals at this point. Our budget when we went to town meeting was 60 grand was what we were told is what MIPA and MISA was going to be. And so what we need to do at this point is that overage of 52 grand, we're going to need to recalibrate our budget and get that 52 from somewhere else now at this point. And so I did not want to do any budget transfers or show you that we took it out of another bucket. I wanted to show you that overrun as we're continuing the exercise as a VE and where we stand. Ultimately, if you look at the very bottom right column, that shows you what you have still available with our figures to spend based upon the vote at town meeting. So we have spent as a project team just over $1.1 million. I'm sorry, we've committed. Excuse me, yes, we've committed just under 2.2 million. We've spent about 1.1 million, and we have just under $13 million left to commit to something. So.
So you knew I was gonna ask about this, right?
Mhm.
Because it, blew my mind when I saw it, so. Bills already the amount of the 112,568.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we had seen the original, I forget, it wasn't Atlas, there's another name for it that we have.
Okay, so this included all the subsurface testing, things like that,
That's
the
correct.
vibration testing,
That's correct.
people testing, all those kind of testing stuff that we did
That's
early
correct.
on.
That's correct.
Before we got to, Ross would be in there too, at the same place.
Exactly.
10,000,
That's
and
correct.
then the Goddard does.
Yes. So now what we will do is recalibrate to set our expectation correctly at what we're calling permitting.
Now that we have commitments and we have all of our bills ready to be paid. And we'll create another column in our working sheet to reflect that, to show us where we stand on either overages or where we need to make up that money at this point.
So,
So so Katie, when we were actually doing this before we had the OPM, we were basically taking all the bills against the 300,000 grant that we got.
Correct.
Basically what we were doing, right?
Correct.
So we as a committee were trying to stay within the 300,000 budget that we had.
Yep.
But now after the fact, you show us the 300,000 in your list as money that we have to spend, then you put all those bills
Put
back
it back
in there.
into it. That's correct.
Okay.
To create almost a total project budget from when this thing was started. Correct.
am I correct in saying that the estimate on what, I guess, Goddard would cost is $52,000 more than we had anticipated?
No.
That's not correct.
Yeah, so if you looked at, I think the Goddard invoice or the proposal that they
Yeah.
gave, I forget the
No,
total number.
It's
that
like
they said.
56,000.
56 grand, right?
Yeah.
And so what we did is when we put this budget together,
Okay.
we put 60 in. And then we started allocating, okay, with our funding sources, our original 350 some odd thousand that we had to start putting them into specific buckets that we had.
So this has to do with, I talked about this before, the whole philosophy of looking at the total project cost, not the project as it started after the first 300,000 was spent.
Correct. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
So another exercise would be, we could consider anything that had been done previously as a separate
Correct.
project,
Exactly right.
which would lower our total project budget.
Right.
And
That's the way I was thought
Same,
about it.
in
I
my
kinda thought
opinion,
of it
so,
that way. You know, it's
um,
being,
well,
we had the money before town meeting, we cautiously spent up to the 300,000. And then everything after that was the rest of the
the
project.
reason for this exercise, correct from Ron Katie, when we went to town meeting, there was some remaining funds. Is that, am I correct in saying that?
there was the 17,911.
We put that into our total budget and made sure that we weren't double asking for money that maybe
I
we
got it.
still had against it. So,
All right,
to that point that you said before we were hired, we're also doing that exercise about the drawing down of certain buckets that we have for funding sources.
Yeah.
We've got the ARPA, the housing choice, your UDAG,
yeah, I got it.
and showing kind of how those kind of cascade down on where you're drawing from. Ultimately, the borrowing is going to be the last source of funds. You wanna
Got it.
keep spending what we have in our coffers until the borrowing and bonding needs to happen.
So the question for the committee will be, from what pot do we take money in order to make up for the $52,000 deficit in
Yep.
this line?
I think it was the kitchen equipment problem.
Dave's gonna
We
be
can serve,
water
we
dishes.
can serve.
I'm
spaghetti
assuming
and
you
meatballs
were
every
trying to be
day.
funny.
I only need is one burner.
And
And
what
a
we buy.
microwave, one burner and a microwave.
I don't even.
Hey, I have a hot plate I can lend you.
The thing that's important about this is as clear as it can get. I mean, you're doing exactly what you believe is industry standards, and
Yep.
this is the way it's an acceptable practice
Yep.
to do this way. So I think that's excellent. We just have to keep working on it.
So what we will do for next meeting too is recast our budget again. Let things shake out again. We're gonna accept VE that came in. We're gonna realize that on here. And we'll get to our bottom number again. Now, we'll have a real number for permitting on here. That's going to go up a little bit. And we'll see where we sit with our contingency with, a new estimate and ultimately what our bottom line is. Do we have more work to do or do we not? But, we want to make sure that those costs that we had done a long time ago need to be realized on budget.
So you know what, you got, when this dawned on me again, something else that I had a meeting on that's still not resolved, as I look at your list. The owner's insurance, the builder's risk. Which I
put it in an email about it, and I think once that gets resolved, that's also a great benefit.
I was gonna
Well, I
pick that up as part of the general insurance.
Well, we agreed that we would explore it, and it was taken to those that would explore it, just hasn't been resolved yet.
Right, it's been taken to the people that need to explore it.
So So can I get a motion to approve the vendor invoice packet and the amount of $107,423.24?
Sure.
Correct.
I make a
Okay.
motion that we pay $107,423.24 from the Vertex invoice package.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, thank you. All right, awesome. Okay. So, our next meeting. We met off schedule this month. We were trying for the third Thursdays. We met the second.
You met the
third this time. Right?
We pushed an extra meeting in there to try to
Yeah,
resolve
okay.
that, yeah.
So then the third Thursday of May is May 21st. Today's third Thursday.
So we want to wait a month, yeah?
I don't think.
Wait, May what?
You may not be able to
21st?
keep waiting.
Yeah.
There's so much to do.
That's the Thursday before
Mhm.
Memorial Day.
Want to ask Dan at our working group meeting to get in touch with Goddard about potentially attending?
Well, he's out of the picture till the 25th.
Yeah.
But as soon as we get to him, yeah.
So we're just meeting once in May.
I think we always have the option to add additional meetings if we need to, but
I may not be able to make it.
okay, just let me know.
So that's 5 weeks away.
As your driveway will be filling with.
Yeah, I got a lot of work to do that night.
So why don't we do it May 14th instead of the later?
Does that give you
That's
guys
still a
enough
month,
time?
that's a
for
month
the-
from now.
Well,
For the next.
yes, if we can,
Have to get the invoices in there too, you know.
accountant said that we need to get this
Yeah.
in. At this stage of the project where there's not many invoices that need to come in, then it shouldn't be an issue.
So
Yeah,
just the-
we're gonna be going in at 90%, and at the next meeting, which is, I don't know what percentage, what amount that is, but we'll be at 90% and then we'll probably hold at that 90 until we get final numbers back that might make some adjustments to the drawings. So,
Is there still preference for the 14th then?
Yeah,
It's still a month. But
Okay,
but so, yeah, I mean,
So the
Okay.
14th.
Sooner rather than-
14th at 4:30 here. All right, wonderful. Can I
maybe
get
Madam Chair, you will look into inviting Goddard or talking with Dan
we'll
about.
talk to Dan, yeah, about that. I've got several things that I need to send out to the group and get added to our documents online and making sure that Goddard gets invited.
if anybody wants to come to that April 28th planning board meeting, of course, the public is always invited.
Yeah.
6:15.
That's the schedule to start the meeting, but we'll have to wait for the agenda to see where we are on that night.
And also on my agenda is to order a new power cord for the owl.
The issue?
That's the issue. It keeps cutting power to it and I keep plugging it and unplugging it. Yeah, so. All
All
right.
right, adjourn.
Okay.
Well, public input.
Oh, yeah. Well, I took public input a few minutes ago, but there's no public input. Public. All right. So Ellen, can I get a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Says aye. Thank you, everyone.